Welcome to Oil and Whiskey, an Ironclad original. I am Josh Henning.
I'm Phil Gerber.
I'm Jeremy Gerber.
Welcome to Oil and Whiskey, an Ironclad original, presented by Blade HQ. Coming up, we've got a brand new In the Glove Box, a Roadster Shop Hall of Fame, where we break down Al Nagel's 32 Ford Deuce Flyer. Today's guest is a racer, engineer, and entrepreneur, Kyle Tucker. But first, it's time for On the Gas. In this segment, we want to take some time to shout out an individual, vendor, shop, or company that's got their foot
on the gas, right?
You just had a seizure.
Yeah.
I
set you up and it was ready.
Okay, on the gas.
In a shop that's got their
on
foot.
the gas.
Never mind. It's horrible.
On the gas.
Oh, still not ready.
Okay, go ahead.
All right. Taking their projects and industry to the next level. All right. Who do we have this week for On the Gas?
We got one that's this is long overdue because this dude does some awesome stuff. Jeremy Senor from Lucky Strike Design. Buddy of mine. Dude does some awesome shit.
Badass painter. I don't know shit about the new performance bagger trend. They're really badass, but all the stuff he's doing is like the coolest of the cool.
He's blending a lot of styles into.
He's just got it going on across the board, man. I mean, the graphics, mixing the carbon stuff with all like the neon colors. And if you pull up his Lucky Strike _designs, check out his Instagram. I mean, everything from just like his bagger motor that he's just Cerakoted everything and it just looks sick, to doing bitchin' helmets. He's awesome at graphics, does like sweet little cartoon characters. Pull it up. Oh, you got it up.
Motherfucker.
Phil, where were you?
Man,
You're supposed to go.
All right. Cues.
Okay, back it up. So
I've been waiting this whole time.
I was sleeping. It doesn't make sense.
All right, hold on. Let's bring it
because nobody knows it's there first and then there.
Well, we're looking.
You're the
over
one
there.
that came up with the deal. I was ready.
All right,
I just wanted to see if I could make it
So the
happen.
Buffer 180 is obviously just strictly for Michael Buffer. Then.
All right. I've pulled it up.
Okay, now
let's let everybody else see it.
Yeah. Bam. There we go.
There it is.
Just an exciting page to spend some time on because everything he does,
So badass.
it just looks good, like to view with your eyes.
Yeah.
Everything. I mean, you look at any of his silver leaf, gold leaf stuff, so bitch, and I just want him to do graphics on like everything I own.
He's one of those guys that's got his finger on the pulse for all different styles. So there's a lot of like traditional stuff, a lot of modern stuff, throw some 80s in there. And it's just, I don't know, it's got a badass style and can make anything cool.
I mean, look at that helmet. Go back up to the
sports ball helmet.
Look at that guy. I mean, that fucker is awesome. Damn.
Yeah, that's some colors. He also did he's done some really cool stuff for us as well.
Done some cool stuff for us. He did on the George's 56 gasser. He did that Devil's Right Hand little radiator cover. Engine turn.
Devil's Right Hand.
Thank you, Josh. Yeah, great song.
Great song.
There'll be
Phenomenal
some
song.
copyright infringements on
Swear
that
to
one.
God.
I
Engine
thought
turn
that was
gold
Wayland.
leaf. Cool little character, dude. Little devil guy.
Did some stuff for your boy too, didn't he?
Yeah, he did. He did a bitchin' 80s deck. That's also super cool. Again, it sits on the wall. It's something I look at every single night, every single day. It glows in the dark too. He's got some little like LED,
Really?
they're like kind of like black lights. So just cool shit.
I love that like Nardo gray bagger that he did. That thing is sick.
I'm gonna get I've got a hankering for another Harley. I think I'm gonna get another soft tail during the maybe during the winter and have Mr. Jeremy do some paint work for it if I can afford it. But check him out.
I think the time is gonna be more the issue of he's got to have a bunch of stuff lined up that you're not gonna get in there.
I'm fine waiting. The time's something I have.
Especially after the 3 people that'll listen to this from now on it.
Yeah. Check him out. Lucky Strike _designs.
Yeah.
Jeremy
Senor.
Sweet. Kyle Tucker is a race car driver turned engineer who founded Detroit Speed and Engineering and started Gear Effects after purchasing CNR Racing's driveline division. And he is the only two-time winner of SEMA's Battle of the Builders competition. Kyle Tucker, welcome to Oil and Whiskey. Well, like we start with everybody, tell us kind of where it all started. Most people know, I mean, good grief, the godfather of pro touring and all the books that have been written. And I mean, I think everybody knows the story, but for those that don't, tell us where you got started motorsports wise.
Yeah, well, thank you. And, to clarify, I think pro touring, gosh, there's a lot of different people that probably have even prior status to me, but I came along at a good time anyway. But yeah, as far as motorsports, I got started, I grew up in a really small town in the Midwest, southeastern Missouri. Wasn't a lot going on there, but my dad got me a go-kart. Didn't have an engine, but it was like a racing Margay chassis. It was old school. And saved up and bought a Briggs and Stratton out of the Montgomery Ward catalog. And it was a big deal. So my big sister, I talked her into pushing me right until we had the engine. So that's actually where my motorsports career started. And I think she got finished with that, and we saved up some money and bought a Briggs and Stratton for it. And anyway, started racing it, locally around the St. Louis area and Illinois, and it kind of got bigger and bigger. I was probably 11 or 12 years old. And the first step in go-karts is you start in the stock Briggs class almost, right? And the next year it's like the stock appearing engine. The next year it's modified, and the next year it's like open, right? So I ran 3 or 4 years, kind of stepping up through that. And it was all dirt ovals because that's what the Midwest has, right? And I love the dirt. Got started that way. And it's funny, I got to where I was 14 and 15, and I was building my own engines, setting everything up and doing it, to save money. And I had to pay for the parts. Dad got me the cart. But I had to have a part-time job to buy the engines. And pretty soon when we were in that open class, it's alcohol and nitro and fuel pumps. And, it cost a lot of money for a kid with a part-time job, 14 years old. So we did pretty well, won a lot of races and raced all over the Midwest through doing that. And in my hometown, a guy by the name of Ray Marler actually gave me my first break. He had a Silver Crown Champ car, USAC Silver Crown Champ car in the area. And I used to, if I had my homework done, Mom would drop me off at Ray's shop, and I could sweep the floor and clean parts, if I wasn't go-kart racing. So I did that for a couple of years and went with them on the road. And Kenny Schrader was driving for them because Kenny's from that area. And anyway, I got to hang out with them. And when Kenny came down here to run NASCAR, the Champ car was sitting there, and Rayburn was starting to get bored. And of course, I couldn't go from a go-kart to Champ car yet. So he bought a Sportsman late model, and I started racing it at the local dirt track. And the deal was he didn't want to like maintain it and set it up, but he would teach me how to race. So he'd show up on Saturday night if I maintained it and got it there, and we'd go racing. And he taught me how to race, and I tore that poor car up the first year. I mean, beat every corner on it, but we won some races that first year. And the old guys had been running that class for years and years and years. That's you know how it is. I mean, they put new tires on the late model before they put bread on the table, right?
Yep.
So I was in small town Bullring, America, in that dirt track in Farmington, and like you said, started winning some races and ruffling some feathers. And the guys, I think, got together at the parts store midnight one week, and said they were going to crash me the next Saturday night, and they did. I was turned sideways at the flag stand and totaled the car, and they ganged up on me. And anyway, from there, put the car back together. In the second year, I rebodied it while I was in high school and part-time job and everything, and won like almost every race that year. So we were really learning a lot and doing a lot of things on the dirt there in the local track area. And then from there, I stepped up and started doing some dirt midgets all over the Midwest, and drove for a guy out of St. Louis. And I really thought at that point, I got through high school and I was going to junior college because my mom and dad, my parents wanted me to go to college, and all I wanted to do was race. So, I was kind of at a fork in the road where Schrader was helping me some, and Rayburn was helping me. And of course, my parents were supportive of what I wanted to do, but all I wanted to do was race. So I did that for a while and just started. I had more right foot than experience, and a dirt midget will definitely rub your nose in the dirt when you when you don't have a lot of experience. So I had no fear and tore up a lot of cars. We started winning some races, but at that point, I remember Rayburn went with me on a big race one night up in Illinois, and the World of Outlaws were there, and we were there as like a sideshow with the midgets. And I turned the car over so many times. It ended up in Roll Crash and Burn magazine that year, which is kind of a big deal, right? If you're not winning, you got to crash, right? So we were crashing that night, and I remember it really rung my bell. And I was carrying my steering wheel and my helmet in the other hand back to the pits, and Rayburn was kind of steadying me walking back, and he's like, you may need a backup thing to this racing gig. So
That's a nice way of putting it.
Yeah, so everybody was kind of getting tired of spending money on me, maybe. So
the page out of Jason Childress's book, the old
yeah,
if you're not going to win, be spectacular. And boy, was he spectacular pretty regularly.
He was. He's more of an entertainer than I probably would be. But yeah, so there I kind of went to engineering school, and I thought, I can start learning more about the cars and how to set them up. And of course, as I got through engineering school, I had to spend a lot more time working on that than I could racing until I got out of school. But that's kind of how it started in small town America.
Well, before we go too much further, I look back on it fondly. And spent a lot of time at the short tracks across the Southeast, and specifically dirt tracks in Midwest and Southeast. You'd be amazed at the $15,000, $20,000, $30,000 engines, in these cars being pulled by a $5,000 truck. And it's like he said, I mean, that is, but the other thing you're going to learn is you're either going to keep your mouth shut or you're going to learn how to fight quick. And it's some of the best fights I've ever seen has been in some of those short tracks.
Oh man, I'm scarred by some of those, and you learn how to work with people, you learn how to deal with people, and you learn how to fight. You're right.
You don't know when it's coming from either, too. I mean, you might put somebody in the wall and you're getting out in the pits, and it could be that dude's mom or grandma or
girlfriend. It was the girlfriend that got me. Yeah.
And you're gonna get clocked with something.
Yeah, I remember like one of the first nights I raced, I looked in some of the other cars and I see guys with this like 1.25 deep well, 1/2-inch drive socket inside the car in the roll cage, like attached to the roll cage. I'm like, I wonder what that's there for. And about 3 nights in, I learned what that was for. Luckily, it wasn't for me, but they'd roll that up in their fist when they came out of the car. And
damn, was that like an impact socket or just a regular socket? Then
it didn't matter. It was a deep well socket. It hurt if you had that in your fist, So yeah, you learn how to get along with people, or you learn how to fight.
Well, I never knew that about you. I didn't know you had that racing background.
I was going to say, I was trying to get my son into go-karts. I've been looking around here, but I don't know if that's the best move after this conversation.
I think it's a little different in the Midwest here.
He was running in Illinois. Right?
I think it's different now, probably, right?
I don't know, man. But you mix some tire prep and some clay ovals and some alcohol. I don't care where you're at in the country. It's bound to get chippy.
Yeah, and they're paying big bucks for those races too, so that puts it even more on top.
You running Burris tires back then?
I sure was. Yeah, it was. Yeah.
You never cease to amaze me with all your knowledge, Josh.
My father-in-law raced a bunch of go-karts way back, and he said the Margate chassis, and they ran twin engine lay-down carts at Talladega and stuff back in the day. All that old school stuff.
Yeah. Me and Phil did it for a while, but it was road course stuff on pavement.
Yeah.
Cool stuff. He was racing when Michael Waltrip was coming up as a young boy, racing and stuff like that way back in the day, and they were running they used to do those Grand Prix like downtown. Birmingham would do one and stuff, and they'd mark, line everything up. BIR back in the day. It's memories coming back to stuff. So you decide, you know what? I got to make a living in this. Most racers across the South and Midwest at the dirt track, there is nothing else besides the racing. You realize that at some point you've got to make a living. So it's
engineering school.
Doing it. So it's engineering school.
It was, I grew up on a farm, so, you learn how to break things and you learn how to fix things. So I was always had interest in anything mechanical. My dad was a hot rodder, still a hot rodder. He's ate up with cars as much of any of us, like an 18-year-old kid. And so he was really a big influence for me. And again, you learn how to fix things on the farm and with racing. And I really did want to learn how to like make the cars go better so I could be a better driver. So engineering school was kind of that in for me. And from there, I got a co-op position with GM and went to the proving ground at General Motors to work, and then ended up working there after I graduated. So that was kind of my trip to Detroit, paid off, and back and forth between school and co-op jobs.
So working at the proving grounds in Detroit, what's that job like? What's the workload there? What's the day-to-day?
Yeah, you guys would love it. It was like the dream job for a gearhead. I hired in on the C. I'm going to date myself because the C5 was pre like prototype at that stage. And as a single young engineer, I was able to hire into a test lab area, and I was assigned one of the pre-prototype cars. I think we had 6 pre-prototype C5 Corvettes, and I was assigned one for chassis and suspension testing. So, had all kinds of data acquisition on it, and then I traveled with the car. If it was snowing in Michigan in the winter, we moved the car to Phoenix and tested out there. But road course laps, potholes, all kinds of ride and handling loops, things like that. But we had, to answer your question, we had all the test tracks you can dream of. I had a hoist, I had spare parts, machine shop, fab shop, and help there if you wanted it. So it was just a dream job for me at the time with somebody that liked to race and drive and liked to work on cars. It was kid in a candy store to go into the Chevrolet building at the proving ground and have a Corvette there to work on. And I did that for almost 3 to 4 years before it came out.
Are you giving them feedback and your input and making changes, or is it just trying to break stuff? And
yeah, the car early on, when you start with a car like that, everything is so far off. Shock valving, the springs, the bars, the brackets, everything. We were breaking all kinds of things until the car gets a little more refined and closer to production. But yeah, you just try and break it. There was one of the tests, they probably still have it, but you literally on Black Lake, they call it Black Lake. It's just a big vehicle dynamics pad, but you literally autocross the car for 24 hours. And the only reason you go off, leave the course, is to fuel it and put brake pads or tires on it, and then you're right back on the course. And that was just one of the many tests you had with it.
Did GM issue the white New Balances, or did you have to buy your own?
Gold chains and white New Balances and a lab coat, man. That's the way you rock.
Sorry, I couldn't resist.
I was trying to work in as well, but I don't want to
nicely
derail
done,
it.
Josh. Nicely done.
I was just after the pocket protector phase, so I wasn't like.
So when when your GM's bringing something like that to market, how long does that take? How do they implement those changes? I mean, that seems like that could be a potential never-ending process. So from the time you're out there testing, tuning, driving the wheels off of a car to where they implement the changes and it goes into production, how does that all work?
Yeah, no, good question. They always wanted it faster, right? Faster to market. And I can tell you to this day, I don't know that there's a better brand within the General Motors. I mean, all of new vehicles, but the way GM tests and develops their products has got to be second to none. I mean, it was in that time frame, it was more seat of the pants. We had data and we were taking a lot of data and analyzing it and making improvements. But today it's so much more analytical, right? I mean, you're driving the car, testing the car on the computer, but back then it was still a lot of old school and the analytical was coming in. And the process was, I mean, you just kept refining it. Whatever we broke, we made better. You got with the release engineer that basically designed whatever part we broke, they made it better, put it on the car and tested it again until it was finally ready to go to production. But we went through several cars, to get to production.
That's interesting. I would have thought, the opposite, where it's kind of like, all right, I know you want to make it perfect, but we've got to stop somewhere.
This thing's good. We got recalls and shit. We'll deal with it then.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and that's where like the cheap engineer has to balance all that, right? Because engineers want to engineer till it's perfect, and there's no time for that. So you have to call it good enough at some point.
Cool.
Interesting.
So what's the next move? You're out there at GM. What's going through your head? Was the next move moving off on your own doing hot rod stuff, or where'd you go through there? Why'd you leave GM?
It wasn't at all. I had a house very close to the proving grounds. It was an easy drive, and I was happy doing what we were doing. After the Corvette program, I got into some other programs, truck and vans and a little bit of everything. But as I was mentioning, as things started to phase into Toyota was coming out to market so much faster. GM had to go more analytical, and I was going to be behind a computer more and more with what I had done before, but having to sit basically at a workstation in a dark room all day long. And that just wasn't me. So at home, I was building, what was to become the Twister Camaro, and just a car I picked up in college and didn't have any money to work on it. And it kind of set to the side, but I brought it to Detroit and started working on it. And it got to be the point where I wanted to build it like Trans Am road race era, but high detail, because my dad had hot rods and street rods, and I was a racer, so it was kind of like where pro touring blended together for me, and it made sense. So built that car on the side, and took all the vacation I could take, and we took it on power tour that year, and it was San Bernardino to Panama City that year. It was old school power tour in 2000. And anyway, the car, it wasn't like over the top. I mean, that thing today is like a snapper lawnmower, you know. I mean,
I remember
so
the car
far
was
different than what
yellow and black.
yeah, it was. It's so far different than the scale of things being built today. But at the time, it was just the right timing and the right kind of look. And people were interested, and got home from power tour, and people started calling me, "Hey, can you work on a car? I've got a car like that. I want it to look like that." And I designed a lot of parts. Our first bolt-on parts came out on that car, and it just kind of evolved. And pretty soon, my 2-car garage at home was starting to get more and more busy. I'd stay up all night and go to GM through the day, and I saw, kind of a light that maybe I could make something of it. I had that much, people calling, so took a leave of absence. Went to my director. He was a car guy, and told him what I wanted to do, and he gave me a leave of absence that I'd come back, get my job back if I didn't make anything of it. So it was kind of a parachute there, and I took the leave and just never went back.
Taking the leap of faith. I mean, that's comes up a lot on what we're on our podcast, talking to different guys starting, and just say screw it. One day you just can't ignore that voice in the back of the head anymore, of saying I gotta do it. So I mean, at that point, you've still got, have you got a shop? I mean, you've got, have you rented a space, or what's going on there?
Yeah, so the 2-car garage was packed, right? I had a borrowed TIG welder in it, an old Lincoln Syncrowave, and I had a Bridgeport that I still have, and hand tools in that car. It was turned sideways in the garage to be able to work on it, get it all in the garage. And so sold the Twister to kind of pay off the credit card bills, right? What you do when you build the first car, and built a bigger shop in the backyard. And it was big enough to put 2 or 3 cars in. And I within the first year and a half, hired my first part-time employee to come over and just help me do fab work. But I was still bending all the control arms and welding all the control arms together and working on cars at night to try and get cash flow to do more of the parts business.
So that was the start. That was the first piece for the Camaros, where you did like tubular control arms bolted into the stock subframe.
Yeah, it was it was all that stuff. I look back on it now, and you laugh where we started, but it was like Delrin lower control arm bushings and upper control arms, tubular upper control arms with a little bit of geometry improvements, and
the Goldstrom mod, probably.
It was, yeah,
of course.
That was the deal to do. Subframe connectors and just anything I could make on cars. I'd start to build a few, put it on the website, and but in the meantime, I was working on people's cars to get cash flow to either buy more equipment or build more parts.
What was the mindset on going after the part side first, opposed to doing the hot rod shop side? I feel like everybody in our industry goes the other approach. They want to build the cool cars. It's like the exciting, glamorous portion. You kind of, I think, went a complete opposite direction than most people. You went after the parts and used the cars to fund it.
Yeah, I think probably. I mean, I wanted to build cars. I'm a gearhead like anybody else, and love building cars. And you can do that. Just work your guts out, and hopefully you can get paid for some of it. And that worked early on. But I always wanted to have a product line for the cars. And then once that application was done, I started thinking about Chevelles and different cars. So early on I saw that I wanted to have that product line. I just thought it would be something small scale and grow little by little. And it was just right timing, the right type of customers wanting those type of parts, and it grew faster than I expected.
What brought you to North Carolina from Detroit?
Yeah, so the Twister Camaro was sold to a gentleman down here, Eddie Vinoy, that has a big car collection up in like West Jefferson area, the mountains of North Carolina. So we brought the car down to him after SEMA. Took it to SEMA that year to be in the Bear booth, and then brought it down to him. He had purchased it and loved the area, right? He's a great guy, and built him a Chevy 2 the year after, and it went to SEMA. So brought that car down after SEMA. I got to know him a little more, and he kept telling me, you need to move to North Carolina, because I kept telling him it's hard in Detroit. You guys know what the weather's like, and I couldn't afford to grow the business up there because at the time, all the suppliers to the automakers were still gobbling up all the the industrial buildings.
Tough to find talent, I'd imagine. too in
It,
Detroit
it
if
is
they're going to the OEMs.
that and building space. So, that backyard shop we had outgrown, and I had leased a small building from Scooter Brothers, Comp Cams, because fast fuel injection was in that area, and Mike Moran and some of those guys. So I had a very small suite that we moved into for about a year and a half. Gosh, it was probably 3,000 square feet, and thought it was like the biggest shop in the world. We made it big time. We had an open house and party and everything, and we outgrew it in about a year. And in that meantime, I was coming back and forth to North Carolina. So Eddie introduced me to a friend actually in Columbus, Sheraton parking lot one night. We were at Columbus, and he's like, "Kyle, this is my friend. He's got a race shop in Mooresville. He wants to get out of racing, sell the building. Kyle, you need to buy his building." I'm like, I can't afford to move to North Carolina and buy a race shop. So anyway, we came down and looked at it, and it was like a perfect setup. It was a fab shop. It had the body shop side and everything we needed. Came with some land in an industrial park. So talked to a banker and told him I'd always pay him back, and got a big mortgage and moved down here, and always paying it back too. So it worked out.
So what year was this? When did this go
That
down?
was like 04. Moved down
04.
here. I think I bought the building in 03, leased it to the race team while we had 4 employees at the time, so they could get ready to move. And 3 out of the 4 came down with us, and moved down here in 04.
Nice.
And scared to death. I thought I'm never going to be able to pay for this building on my own. And took every job I could take to try and make it work.
So at this point, this is now Detroit Speed, right? This is
Right.
you've started the business. You are rocking and rolling, ready to go.
Were you building cars right there from the start at the new building, or when you moved?
Yeah. In fact, we had to move. Gosh, I think I tried to finish all I could. I think we had 3 or 4 cars in play in Detroit area, and moved down here with 2, that we had to finish. And then we had more showing up, so I could try and hire more people and get more cash flow going to pay for the building.
How much of the manufacturing was put in place, prior to when you moved, or was that all started when you moved to North Carolina?
Yeah, no, it was still, we did a lot in that Michigan shop with mostly the Camaro product line. It was still growing, but there wasn't much else besides the Camaro product line until we moved to North Carolina, had more space, and within a couple of years put in the first CNC machine and brought machine work in-house, and bought more welders and hired more welders, and kind of ramped up the fab side even more on the product side.
Pretty cool. So how, at that point, now you're manufacturing parts, you're building cars. What makes you decide to, rather than sticking in some pieces of tubing into a tubing bender and bending up a subframe, you don't do that. You hydroform a subframe, which is completely unheard of. I mean, totally
It's like
over the
space
top.
age for our industry.
Yeah, that's basically like it's NASA
Yeah.
stuff at that time.
It was big, and I think I was the only one dumb enough to put the risk out there and try it too. But from my GM days, I mean, I knew I wanted, like, I knew the parts I wanted to design and build, but you just, you don't have the cash or the time. Everybody knows how that is in this industry. So it was a big risk. And I had hired a couple of new engineers to help me. And one of the engineers is still with Detroit Speed, super sharp guy. And we talked about doing our own frame, because at the time, I don't know if you remember, like Wayne Dew had a subframe, and there was a few early 2x4 frame rails out there, subframes. And I was like, man, I built a couple of cars with those and didn't care for them, and definitely didn't like them once we drove the car or put them on the track. So we just kept brainstorming about how could we do this better. And hydroforming was coming out, on like the early 2000 trucks. And I had a connection still in Detroit because of the vendors that I got to meet up there, and basically went to a prototype shop to do this tooling. And it was a really big risk. I mean, it was like, if we didn't sell a few of these, we're going to be out of business. And but at the same time, if we could make it work and sell enough, I knew it would pay off in the long run, because the tooling was set and you just keep chunking them out. And that was really the big risk, was to design. We had it designed, and we built the fab version of it first and just wore it out for a year, trying to break it and make it better. And then once we were satisfied with it, invested in the tooling to make the tooling. And gosh, I think the tooling for the left rail and the right rail, it's enormous. It's like 55,000 pounds worth of material to make the tool, the upper and lower dies for left and right frame rails. So it's like tractor trailer loads, 2 tractor trailer loads of material to make the die, So it was a big deal for us.
That's huge. I wasn't thinking anywhere near that.
Gotta have the foresight for that.
Yeah, like you
That's
said,
when you gotta.
that's a put the balls out there and be like,
Yeah.
you know what?
Because if you
Throw them over the shoulder.
Right.
Hammer down. Yeah, it was.
you could sell
It was
2 or
hard.
2,000.
Yeah.
That's a
Yeah.
that'd be a tough one.
That's another pretty common theme in our industry, though. You design something you believe in, you take the risk, and then when your back's to the wall, you got to make it happen, and it's kind of a now or never type situation.
Yeah, you weren't looking at the price point of what that was going to be once it was all finished. You knew what you wanted to build and wanted to build the best you possibly could, and whatever it ended up costing is what it ended up costing. You weren't going to be like, well,
yeah, exactly.
I need to hit this price point, so how can I build it to meet that?
No, you're exactly right. It was like most chassis rolling subframes at the time were like $2,000, and ours comes out at like 5,700, right? And it was a tough sell, but you get a few of them in people's hands, and they liked it, appreciated it, and word of mouth, it grew. And we, like you guys, I mean, just wore ourselves out on the road. Every weekend we'd be somewhere, trying to show what it did or talk to people about it all over the country, and just wore ourselves out trying to do it.
This is weird seeing like the front side of your head, because I'm used to seeing like the back of your helmet and your tail lights. So this is a little different conversation here.
I chased you a few times. I remember, Phil. You've got it together.
There's 1 or 2 wins, I think.
Yeah, no, I think there's more than that.
You still into print media stuff? Because I got a magazine that I was just looking at the other day.
This came up in conversation because this is Phil's one and only win against the legendary Kyle Tucker. So
we have that built up there. That's muscle truck of the year.
Was that out at was that El Toro days?
That was out at the popular. Remember that popular hot rodding shootout? It was a muscle car shootout.
Yeah, out in Irvine, right?
Yeah, and it was like they were having a hard time. I don't know, like filling it up, and I think probably because we were an advertiser, they threw us a bone and said, "Well, you got a truck. You could come on and it'd be."
No, we were supposed to have Bruce's Camaro, but then it was too nice to beat on. So
it's good that we didn't. Yeah, we'd gotten our ass kicked in that.
No, I remember that. You guys ran really well. And the green Chevelle, the orange Chevelle, I remember all those days.
Yeah, that was. I mean, back then, we were working together, and that was. I always say, for us in this industry, I think there's been really 2 people that have changed, the direction of where we've gone with the Roadster shop. I mean, one of them has always been Troy Trepanier, who we just had on here the other day. From a, vehicle build standpoint, I mean, just an absolute god,
right.
to do what Troy's unbelievable. But from a, product standpoint and just overall role model of image, running a business, and what you've produced, I mean, you and Detroit Speed have always been inspirational, to us back in the early days, and we worked together, and it was very, I guess, eye-opening coming from being guys that fabricated hot rod chassis and moving into the pro touring scene and jumping into muscle cars as far as what you could actually do with a classic car. And, I hope you realize what you've given to this industry from what you've created, that cars probably wouldn't be enjoyable to drive today. If it wasn't, we'd still be, cruising around on 1-inch, 120 wall control arms with rubber bushings and Alden Eagle, coilovers,
spring retainers.
Yeah, just wound up super tight with 8,000 pound springs.
24-inch long single through bolt on the bottom.
Right, and just letting air pressure out of the tires to make them ride good. So
well, no, I appreciate it. I think we've all come a long way, right? Anybody that's building cars, it's been building cars for a while, to doing parts. It's so much different now than it was 10, 15, 20 years ago. And I appreciate it. And I had a lot of people, and still have a lot of people in this industry I look up to. Troy, I'm a big fanboy of Troy, and we're probably the same age almost, but I've always looked up to him. Just a great person, right? Let alone, like you said, Jeremy, what he builds and his team. But, Bobby Alloway and Lobeck was big when I came into the industry. I talked to Lobeck and Brizio and all those guys I still really look up to.
Yeah, Lobeck was badass because we were doing 30s cars at that time. My only gripe, and I don't want to talk shit, I know he's passed away. He just kind of like looked like my grandma. Lobeck always looked like a old lady.
He got a lot of shit about
that. Phenomenal dude. I mean, I heard the guy partied his ass off and everything, but
he did. He did.
You have always done it with class. That's something that I will always say, regardless. I mean, win, lose, highs, lows, kicking ass, whatever it is, no matter what it is, you're class. I mean, it's you got a swagger about you. You've got, you're nice to everybody. You'll tell everybody the truth, and it's one of those. That's, as well as I do. There's the show face that some people put on, and then there's the real deal. And you're the same guy. It's always have been, something
Thank
I've
you.
always appreciated. In addition to that, you're one of the few that is done car building at the quality and the volume that you've done, as well as the manufacturing at the quality and the level that you've done. We talk about it all the time when we're, marketing ourselves and talking to customers and stuff. We think that that's what makes both of our sides better is the
Right.
other one. It pushes each
I
other.
agree.
And
Right.
you're one of really the only other one that I know out there that does it to that volume on both sides and that quality. And that's a difficult, speaking from experience, that's a difficult thing
It's hard to do.
That's
Yeah.
that's a juggle in and of itself. Once you get to the level that that you're at, it's
That's because most people are probably smarter than all of us. If if the manufacturing was going that great, like it was, you just shit can the car builds.
Right.
You'd go back to that garage, in the backyard
what
and
you
build
wanna
one at
build.
home and just
Yeah.
keep cranking the
Right.
products. Yeah, cars are phenomenal, but man, they will rip your heart out of your chest and stomp
They
all
do.
over it.
We should all have a chapter in a book that somebody should write to do that. But you're right, it's hard, and I appreciate that. I mean, of any strength I've ever had, it's probably hiring people to do something better than I can do, and that's pretty easy to do. But I mean, on the car team side, we had just a great group of guys. On the manufacturing side, great group of people, and engineering too. It was just over time, just putting people in place, and some came and went. You know how it is, but I mean, you try and find that right person that makes a part of the team because no one person can go out and build a car. Some people think they can.
Yep.
And you've had people probably leave your shop and think they can go do what Jeremy and Phil and Josh does. But I mean, it's hard. It takes the whole team, and they learn that later. But same for me. I've trained some of our people that are new in the industry building cars, and I'm glad they're building cars. I mean, there always needs to be people doing that, but I think they realize it's the whole team that makes it work.
Does that as many times as that's happened, have you gotten over it, or is it still just hurt a little bit when you put that? There's only 3 or 4 people listen to this podcast. Don't worry, it's like nobody listens. So that's a difficult one when, and we don't have to go too deep into it, but everybody's got those stories, and what you've done for some of those guys, and it's great. You never want to hold somebody down, but at the same time, you're kind of like, oh, that kind of sucks. Like,
Yeah.
am I not good enough? Like, why don't you want to work here?
It's hard. I think you never get used to it. You get calloused to it over time, where it kind of hurts less. But people are always really important to me. Our people are really important. Coming from GM, I understood what the benefits were at a big company, right? Vacation days, personal time off, benefits, things like that. And I always really stretched 401k. Always really stretched to have our people have the best that we could afford. And I remember sometimes our CPA would look at us and like, why are you guys paying these people this or giving them this benefits? And it was, we weren't making much from profit,
Yep.
but we were building a team, and I guess that was my long game was as long as we had good people, we treated customers right, and we gave them a great product, we're going to get there in the long game. And we just stuck to it and kept building a better team all the time.
It's not that different from building a car and getting your start. You're always donating to get it to where you want to be until it eventually pays off 5-10 years down the line. And then you can kind of
Right.
recoup some of the initial investment, if you will.
Right. And I think anybody that's been in business for 1 day or 5 years, you always think, when am I ever going to make it? Right. When will you know if you make it? And you still have to put money in of your personal money to make it go a lot of times. And it takes a long time to make it work.
Hey, you just got to give it like a couple decades, and then it.
Right.
Speaking of CPAs, did those CPAs never talk to you about why are we buying jack stands then just to blast them and then body work them, paint them, and then rub them out?
They never. I always buried that. They never saw that, I don't think.
Oh man, that's something that will be etched into my memory forever. Those purple jack stands and the purple machinery and how nice and clean everything is. And I mean, the jack stands are all faced one way. I mean, I even said something like, oh, that's nice that they're all lined up, whatever.
You could
and
see him in the back, or there's a purple one back
Yeah,
there.
there's probably still some in here.
He's like, that's not by accident. They'll always be lined up that way. They better be lined up that way.
Well,
I definitely had my pet peeves and still do. The guys give me trouble about that.
Yeah, it's how you do something. It's how you do everything, right? That comes up all the time.
Yeah, but you don't need to wet sand the inside of the jack stand. Like out of the gun,
you know
out
what?
of the gun finish is probably good.
It'd probably be better to mask it and bedline it. So it can
Right.
Oh, sorry, we got a little
we get
off.
a little off track.
Hey, that's
there,
just the
but
way it
I
is, you know, when the whiskey starts flowing. So you're rolling, you're building subframes, you're looking at other stuff. You did, you know, you came out and changed the game again on some Mustang stuff, and you were always pushing. So where was your mind at that point? You know, you're 5, 6, 7 years in, you're manufacturing, everything's kind of rolling. What's on your radar? What are you thinking? Where are you at?
It was still to, on both sides to go after that next application as we finished the Camaros, Novas, worked in the Chevelles, did the Mustangs, and like all of us, you're always chasing, hey, what's the next big thing, right? And we came up on the second gen Camaros to the Mustangs then, and we were late to the trucks because the trucks really took off, and we were still working in some of the car business. But we were always watching. You go to those shows, you go to the events, and if you're a good listener, you're going to be told what you need to do next. And I guess that's kind of how we followed it, because we're always on the road so much and filter out what you hear sometimes, but you can get a lot of that intel and know what you need to do next. And it was really just going on to the next application of that next person that had generational money, out of high school. They wanted this car, never had it. They had a little money. What's that car now? And it went from the 60s to 70s to 80s, now 90s, right? So we were always paying attention to that. And on the car build side, just trying to, like we always do, learn on each build and trying to build the next car better. And as you build the next car better and people are happy, you get another customer, repeat customer that you can build a better one for. And you guys know that too. It's what you work for. Is to, a lot of times we all want to build the car the way we want to do it, but you still, at the end of the day, you have to build it for what the customer wants. It's paying for it. And we've had customers that let us do our influence and build it kind of our style, but it always has to be what the customer wants.
It's interesting you talk about, listening to the customers at the shows, and you can very quickly pick up what those trends are. You also have to filter some, because the 39 Plymouth, 39 Plymouth has come up at just about every show that's ever been done.
29 Essex.
Right.
29 Essex. Yeah.
So with the product side, a lot of guys are out there that kind of quick rush to market, get something done. How important do you feel the R&D, building something, testing it is to bring it to market, especially something that's critical as, the suspension side of things?
Yeah, it's hard not to rush it. I mean, you see, and the companies that, they stick it together, they powder coat it, whatever their color deal is,
What
and
companies
bring
would
it to
those be?
market. I got a list.
One of these days, you're going to get somebody to.
I just slide it in.
As casually as you drop it, somebody's going to just fire it back.
It's the same list you guys have, but it's hard to do that extra. I mean, we would run these cars like you did. We were running the cars just every weekend we could, and we broke things, or we learned how to make a better shock adjustment, or come back and valve the shocks and go back next weekend and just make it better. And we were always good about anything we were good at. We were always good about holding back. And I think that was probably from what I learned at GM on the development side, was just, it needs to be as good as we can make it. And yeah, you can't engineer it to death, can't make it perfect, but you can get as close as you can. And it's hard. I mean, but you can't wait until that product line is over peak either. You got to try and reach it before it gets to peak. And it's hard to develop the parts that far along and refine the fixtures to make it repeatable, to make it where you can make money on it, and come out with it, because you're so excited to bring it out. But it takes at least another year for us to bring it to market after we're driving on it.
I think that's one thing that's always set you guys apart. And there's a handful of companies, I think we do the same thing, that you're out there beating the living hell out of it to make sure that it is something that you're proud to sell. And
Yeah.
I don't know if you go through this same test, but we kind of go with I could sleep at night with no problems. Putting
Right.
that out there,
Or
and,
the Phil didn't
Right.
break it
yeah,
test.
or I didn't break it. So
Right.
Or the fence
No,
at
it-
Texas didn't break it.
No, that broke it. The
Hey, I
fence,
was there that
yeah, the
day. I
fence in
remember that.
Texas, it broke it all. Like, not the suspension, just the,
But the
yeah.
fence.
the
fence
bumper,
got
the
broken,
hood,
yeah,
the
fence,
grill.
yeah.
I didn't see it, but I was like right there, and I had my head turned, and somebody said, "Hey, Phil went through or got into the fence." And I looked around, and was like, "No, Phil went through the fence." But you were on kill that day, man. You were going.
Yeah, I had the fastest time in the autocross. It just ran out of runway on the
Break
stop
zone.
side. Yeah.
But that fence was close. I'll give you credit.
Yeah.
He shouldn't have
Fuck
put it
that
there. I blame
fence.
that all on Trent for setting that course up that way.
I've got out behind the shop. I still have all my crashed cars, so we could still go through and tell you each weekend where they were crashed at.
Do you have the wheel from the rental car in Good
Oh,
Guys,
wait,
Texas?
boy, I just told Josh about this.
We're
So
saving that.
To then?
That's-
Okay.
Yeah, we get it. Well, first, once we get done with some standard questions and all that, we did this with Troy last week.
It's
we
going to be
have a
hard to
segment-
beat
we have a
Troy's
segment
story.
called Story Time, right? And it's
Okay.
just funny ass stories that most people, if you're not in the inner circle, they've never heard, right? And it may be a story about SEMA or traveling or car shows or whatever. And Troy stayed on, and he brought the heat. He brought 3 or 4 stories
Yes.
that had us dying.
Bangers.
So if you have the time, we would love for you to stay along for story time and tell us some of those. And maybe the rental car story could be one.
I remember that now, guy. It was the HHR, wasn't it?
It was,
Is what
yeah.
it was.
Well, we'll get there. But diving back into the product side of things. I'll say, this is something, Kyle, that I've always been impressed with. That's actually helped us in our car builds quite a bit. Outside of just your suspension products, I think you've done a phenomenal job of offering, build parts that you've engineered or parts that you've sourced that make a car work really well. And still to this day, I mean, I'd say 90% of the cars we use or we build have a DSE wiper motor, a DSE booster kit in them, and a
Mini tubs in the
variety,
Camaro.
mini tubs in the Camaro, all sorts of different things that like those would be great products for us to make anybody. But they're available.
Yep.
It's phenomenal
And it
stuff. You
works.
just know it works. There's no reason to make it any better. No reason to change it. So that's been, I think, helpful for all the builders out there, which is it's proven stuff.
When something when your product that you manufacture becomes so commonplace, as commonplace as that tire size that we all like to run, or that it's just the same thing. It's like you've got your 5 bullet points of like, well, it's this, and this, and then we can deviate, and customize a little bit of this, but it's got to have these things, and it's just a standard. I mean, it's no different than your hardware that you're going to use. You're going to use the same hardware. You're going to use the DSE master booster combo and stuff like that, and a low car e-brake cable, because let's face it,
nothing else out
why
there.
has nobody come out and knocked that off yet after this many years?
No, I agree. No, it's things you learn. Building cars, you think, hey, there's not a product here to fix this problem. And if you're on the parts business side, you go and find make a widget to service that void in the market. And just like you guys are building cars, you find voids in the market, and it's a risk. Some hit. I always think, this is going to be the greatest part, and then they don't sell. You sell 2 or 3 of them, but you win some, you lose some. But a lot of that came from building cars and just finding voids in the aftermarket marketplace.
That's what I was going to say. It's like everything you've come out with has been, there's no other option for there besides a old, restored wiper motor or a Napa rebuilt wiper motor. Like, how do you take the jump from building suspension to, fuck it, let's build wiper motors? That's a cool piece.
I know. I guess just because I'm a widget guy, right? A widget and a gadget guy. It was just a challenge. And, Stilo and I are buddies. Mark Stilo and I went to engineering school together, and of course, a big influence in what we all do. And Mark was actually the one that came up with that first system. And Mark's like the mad scientist, right? He's like, he can figure out how to build one, and he's not interested in building 2. And so we were around working through that, but I have to give Mark credit for that first wiper kit. He's the one that really made that work and used some OE parts because he was in the GM world and scienced it out. And then we just made it work in the aftermarket.
Well, I thought the $1,200 purple jack stand pair was gonna fly off the shelves, but
you tried selling them, huh?
Yeah.
No, he did. It was a special edition.
There was a
Oh,
little
you
bit
didn't
of
see-
there was a
I
little bit
never
of
saw
orange
those.
peel on the underside of the handle.
Yeah,
that's what did
maybe.
it.
Yeah.
Should have went to 5,000 on
Tried
the
to
on,
rush
wet
it.
sand.
That's what you get for cutting corners.
And just gonna hack
That's
these
right.
jack stands, get them out there.
So after you've created a titan in the manufacturing, you created a titan in car building. I mean, you're winning some deal called SEMA Battle of the Builders twice or something like that. I don't know.
Which I think him
it's
winning
some
it,
small award. that
him
they do
winning
out
it
there.
twice, I think meant we must have lost it twice because we were in it quite a bit.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
But
one or two
he's
or
won it twice.
Yeah.
Yeah. Again, we got to see the back of your head and the tail lights.
You got to see
No.
the back of that leather jacket is what you get to see.
Yeah, there were nice tail lights in the black Camaro. I'll give you that.
I've lost more of those than we've won. I'll tell you that. But
so have we.
it's a cool deal.
So after all of that, then you decide, you know what would be cool? Let me buy a third member company. CNR Racing's driveline division. You're like, fuck yeah, let's do it. And take that over, start Gear Effects, and start building third members. And if you didn't have enough free time, I guess that took the rest of it.
It did. I don't know what I was thinking, but at the same time, it was a good move. It's something that, was, I'll just call it an underserved area of our market, because there's definitely people that know how to build third members, whether you're circle track racing or drag racing or off-roading or whatever. They get it. They know how to do their niche. But in our industry, it's part race parts and part Lexus, Mercedes, really high-end, quiet stuff that people spend money on these cars. So it was a problem. We all had the same problem. And as we built more and more rear suspensions and upsold to the rear axle and complete assemblies, you had what was always the common denominator callbacks were gear noise. So it was a big problem. And I'd always take our customer gears first. I would ship them back on our nickel from the customer. And they were always in Washington State, furthest from North Carolina. And we'd ship a third member back to us. I'd take the CNR, they would fix it, and I'd ship it back. So we're just going in the hole every time we sold a third member. So anyway, when CNR was bought out by PWR, Keys, great Australian. If you ever spend some time with Keys, great guy, salt of the earth, gearhead, racer, machinist, gadget guy, really cool guy. He had PWR and he wanted CNR, but he didn't want anything to do with the North Carolina kind of Mooresville area because it was here to service NASCAR, building NASCAR gearboxes and NASCAR third members. So he had come to me at SEMA a few times, like, Kyle, you need to buy this business. I'm like, Keys, I have no idea how to do that business, and I have no business buying it. I can't buy it. He had a deal put together with some other people in the aftermarket, people you guys would probably know. And again, Keys is a salt of the earth guy. They pissed him off. And Keys came back to me and he's like, look, I'm not selling to these guys, basically, and said, let's go to dinner. So we went to dinner one night at SEMA, and I'm like, I don't know how to do this. So he came to Mooresville a few months later, and we put a deal together over some drinks. And I said, Keys, CNR is this big, and I want this much of it. I can make it go on this much of it. And he's like, well, give me a price. I gave him a price, and he went for it. And I'm like, oh my God, it's like that 57 Buick you buy. It's like, man, it's a cool car, and I know I could do this. I got these parts I could put on it. I could have this thing running, but I'll just throw it out there. He probably won't go for it. And then you end up with a 57 Buick you don't need. It's kind of like that, but with a business, So
good analogy.
yeah, it was like, wow, what did I do? And but a great team of people, and I knew what the market needed, and I knew what I wanted to do and grow it. And we had a good start on that. It was really cool, and I wanted to keep that business. Because it was a good group of guys, and we had a lot more we could grow into there.
Yeah, great stuff. We've used, a handful of them. Awesome product for sure. Just like everything else you've done, man. Top notch.
Thank you. Well, it's always been a great group of people, behind the scenes, and you know how it is. Like especially like Battle of the Builders. It's like your names are up there taking all the credit, and I'm a type of guy that I feel bad about that. I always come back Monday morning as soon as I can get back. It's like, hey, this is what we did, and you see me on the poster, you see you guys on the poster, Alloway, Chip, Troy, but it's really the team of people back at the shop that needed all the credit. But somebody has to get up there and promote it and talk about it too. But I always felt guilty, to tell you the truth, about taking some of that credit because it's all the guys back in the shop making it happen.
Yeah, I get that 100%, and it's interesting how it does. It almost sours it because it's tough to stand there, but there has to be one person,
Right.
so somebody's got to get up
Yeah,
there.
but the whole time it's almost like cringing.
Yeah, it's a
kinda
little
like,
cringeworthy. Like you feel, you
Yeah.
certainly feel guilty. But we were just
Yeah.
up there for the good guys deal. We debuted that OBS truck, and we were fortunate
Right.
to have a good chunk of the crew there with us.
Yeah.
Good.
And it
that
was
worked on the
good.
truck.
yeah,
and
it's nice when the opportunity presents itself that you can have the gang there.
It's
that's
funny
Right.
too when you bring
responsible for
those
it.
10, 12, 14 guys that were working on it, whatever. It's like, all right, now it's your turn to shine. Get up there by the truck. And it's always like,
No, they don't want to, right? Yeah. You go do that, boss.
Well, see, somebody's got to fucking do it, It's like,
And that was so many times, you're sitting there at SEMA and they're about to announce, they've got the card and they're about to announce who's winning. And I'm looking at like you guys or Alloway or somebody thinking, all right, they're going to win it. And I want to see their expression. And then I'm off the hook. I don't have to deal with this and feel guilty or take it back to the shop. But, a couple of times it was us, and very fortunate to be in that place with the car, the customer, and what the guys have built.
yeah, they were well deserving. Badass cars.
for sure.
Well, speaking of the cars, what's some of the, if you had to pick one or two of your favorite builds to be a part of for whatever reason, what would some of those highlights been?
It's it's hard to do one, but I have a top 5. But probably the one that I loved the most was that 41 Willis that we did for Mike and Janie down in Texas. Awesome, real 41 Willis steel car, and I love driving that car. It was always fun to drive.
That was a game changer.
That was. I was going to share my my favorites.
Oh,
That
go
was
ahead.
the Dale Jr. car,
Okay.
and
Yeah.
it was I call it a Willys. Up
It's a
here
Willis,
up
though.
here in
But
Chicago.
so they give
We-
me shit
we
all the
call
time
it
'cause I
that.
call it a Willis, and they do not.
But those
like
two
that.
cars, I feel like when the Dale Jr.
Your Willie or your Willa?
He's a Willie. Yeah.
Willie.
Yeah, Willie.
When the Dale Jr. car came out, that was kind of a game changer. That thing stood out. The fucking
Had
car
a lot
was
of NASCAR.
It did.
And
Car had a lot of
Right.
the A-pillar tie-ins.
a lot
and
of cool stuff. But
shit.
the Willys was nasty. I mean, you're so used to seeing the Outlaw body with the 20-inch wheels and a
Right.
Ramjet 502 with every
Yeah.
street and performance accessory on it.
Right.
To see
House of
one,
Colors.
yeah,
Sunset
Tangelo, right.
Oh, I'm
but
Yeah.
to
I'm
see
friends with Kyle, and I remember being at Columbus
it's like,
right with it.
fucking
I was
son of a bitch.
MFing him too because I was like,
Yeah.
that thing won't fucking drive. You can't drive it that fucking low. There's no way you can drive it
It's
that
cool.
fucking low. I mean, that thing's crazy low. But it was
because
that
it
thing was
hit
sick.
it all. I mean, it was as
Yeah.
cool as the nastiest 41 Willys gasser.
Yeah.
But
But in
as drivable as any of your pro touring 69,
Thank
70
you.
Camaros. That thing was
that was a gamble too. That wasn't.
Bitchin'.
I mean,
It was.
yeah, that'd be
Yeah,
difficult.
nobody had kind of like touched that style of car, but you had a phenomenal blend of like the pro touring stance and components, but still the nod to all the nostalgic
Right.
stuff where all the old school
Right.
guys could recognize it, all the new school guys could recognize it, and it
And that car
molded-
had race history too, Phil. I mean, it was Bernstein actually drove that car some in his early career. There's pictures. So it was always a drag race car and just
Shit.
beat to hell when we got it. Crashed, rolled, everything, but it had a lot of cool race history.
It's wild. Just thinking about that Willis and how it was done, it reminds me how many times Kyle in Detroit Speed's been brought up at interior shops because it's always when it
he
comes to the
slid in
trunk.
front of you.
Oh, it comes into the trunk, and it's kind of like, I'm like, yeah, we'll just kind of like do some like simple race shit and all that stuff, and it's like, oh no, we're gonna do all this carpet and leather and these waterfalls. I'm like, no, don't worry about the trunk. Kyle Tucker gets away with it all the fucking time. He hasn't upholstered a trunk since he's been in
Yeah.
fucking bit. Oh,
We lost him.
we lost Kyle.
Welcome back.
Thanks, guys. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we
Yep.
got you.
Oh, good.
I've got like 14%, but I'm going to pour another drink after all that.
Perfect. We made 3.
I was watching. I'm impressed, Jeremy.
Thanks.
With the smoke show
Yeah.
and was it an apple?
Yeah, he's
I'm coming for Thanksgiving, all right?
Anytime,
How many
man.
spots do you have?
We're wide open, dude. There'll
Yeah.
always be a seat at the table for you, Kyle.
You can also catch them pretty much any Friday night at TGI Fridays.
Oh yeah, you got it. If I'm not cooking that Jack Daniel's ribeye, I'm drinking the JD old
That's
fashioned.
awesome.
Ah. Well, I'm glad you got a little more power, and we can roll back through.
Yeah,
Try
no,
not to
I'm
keep you
good
too
for
long.
Where did we leave
You're
off?
fine. I'm fine on time. I'm just sorry we're limited by battery and technology here tonight.
So where are you at right now, Kyle?
So I'm in Mooresville,
Okay.
at my shop, which is my my shop is a smaller building, just kind of on the same property as Detroit Speed, but kind of across the field a little bit.
Well, I guess,
So I kept this building just for my office and some of my junk.
Sweet.
I guess that kind of is a natural progression and brings us to the next phase. And we talked about, building up Detroit Speed and cars and manufacturing and suspension and Gear FX. And then after everything's rolling so good, what happens then?
Yeah, I mean, we still have a long to-do list, and everything's rolling along, still hiring people, buying equipment, and looking for the next deal, right? Making the cars better and trying to make the parts better and go to the next product. And Holley had approached me about 6 or 7 years ago about purchasing the company. I'm like, no, I'm still, I've got a lot I want to do. We've got a great team, so I'm good. Thank you, but I'm good. It made me feel good, but I'm good. And they started calling back in first part of 2020. Well, let me back up a little bit. I had a company at SEMA that had approached me that wanted to buy, and I kept thinking about, I'm not ready for this. I haven't prepped the company. I'm not interested in selling. But I thought, it's kind of like an interview. The more you do, the better you get, the more practice and things like that. So I talked to this company, we'll call it a company first. And timing just wasn't quite right as we got a little further along. But I learned some things through it, what they look for, what they don't look for. And I thought I would just bag that and put it in future reference, right? When I need to prep the business, when I want to exit. And about that time, when that deal kind of fizzled out, Holley started calling again. And they're like, hey, we want to get into the game, chassis suspension, and you're on our list. And I just said, again, no, I'm not interested. We've got a lot we want to do. I'm having fun. We've got a long list of things that's going right. And I just put them off. And I don't know if you know Tom. Tom Tomlinson's a gearhead, CEO of Holley. Their executive team are led by a lot of smart guys, big brain guys, but gearhead guys too. And Tom kept calling me. And we set up finally on I think it was every 3 weeks we would talk, right, on a Monday. And sometimes we'd just talk about cars. Sometimes business would pop into it, and I would ask him questions about, the big business that they were into. And finally, as 2020 kind of went along, he softened me up a little bit and started telling me why they wanted in the business and what it would look like. And so I said a maybe. And that was kind of the crack in the door. And, long story short, they were great to work with. I told them, this is how I would see it because I've not prepped the business for sale. Don't really want to. But I made a list and had a long talk with myself of one day, if I could sell the business, who would I approach? What would I want out of it? Not necessarily monetarily, but how would I want it to go down for the employees, the brand, me, all that. And, the biggest thing being a gearhead was like, all right, what cars can I keep? I've got cars, I've got projects I set to the side. I want to build one day. So we came up with a kind of a letter of intent. And, I kept thinking, all along the way as we went through negotiations and kind of the diligence, I should call it, for months and months and months. I kept thinking at some point they're going to throw me a curveball and I just won't sell, but I've learned a lot. It's like 2 jobs, 3 jobs for me now because I'm doing this through the day and doing this at night, getting data to them. But to Holley's credit, they never threw me a curveball. I told them what was important to me to see the brand go forward in the future, what I wanted out of it, again, from not necessarily monetarily, that was part of it, but what I wanted to keep, cars and trucks and trailers and equipment and just personal items that, it's my life. It's pictures and, memories and trophies. And the trophies aren't that big a deal, but it's just certain things you accumulate because this is my golf game, my beach game, my racquetball game. It's everything. All I'm into is cars. So it was important that I could keep what I wanted out of it. And they were true to the T all the way through it.
It's awesome. It couldn't go to a more deserving guy, that's for sure. I mean, it's great that you've gotten, kind of I'm sure you're still working hard, but you've gotten a lot of that. I mean, you should have done it before you got a little gray, but I mean, you've got.
I think there's a couple of reasons for the gray part, but that's a different story. But, it's been good. It's hard to go like, how it is, just wide open throttle all the time for years and years and years. And then to back off and not have the day-to-day of the business. And there was some transition I tried to help with. And looking back, I wish the transition could have even went better, not necessarily from Holley's side, but even my side. because it happened at the end of the year for several reasons. And my wife and I had a vacation planned like December 18th. We're going to Mexico, right? It's planned. I don't know if I'll have signal because we were supposed to close on the business the day before. And I'm like, look, guys, we're going, and I'll check in with you if we have cell service. I'll check in with you. Maybe we can close over the phone. So it's like, here's Kyle from Podunk, Missouri, closing with a team of lawyers and big brain guys, and I'm sitting on the beach at 9:30 in the morning with a Jack Daniels in my hand in Mexico, and all I had to do was say yes, and that was it.
Wow.
So we did the deal and went on vacation. I came back, at the start of the year, and it was awkward, I think, for the employees looking back, and just the way it went down. But it's never a right time to tell the employees, hey, this is what happened. At the same time, I couldn't tell them beforehand. And there's just, looking back, there's not a perfect script I think you can write to do it, in everybody's eyes, to try and not hurt feelings.
Sure.
Are you still getting to race, or are you actually getting to race more? I know you've done Bajas, for a couple of times for sure.
Yeah, I love Baja. It's like my vacation to myself, probably, gosh, going on 12 years now, and getting ready to go back this year, putting a deal together, and still been racing some, not as near as much as I have been. I'm working on updating some of the cars that I've always ran, putting some new parts on and new driveline in those, and working on some of the projects I set to the side. But yeah, I'm still racing and still going back to Baja this year.
Sweet.
We talked to Jerry from Camberg Off-Road, and we were just kind of starstruck a little bit. In our minds, like a trophy truck running Baja is like the coolest of the cool. Is it everything it's cracked up to be? And if it's not, don't kill my dreams, please.
No, it is everything, Phil. I mean, you guys need to go do that. I mean, what you're doing with the off-road chassis and frame packages, and what you've done with the buggies and things. I mean, it's hard to describe. It's just the feeling you get down there. One, the country is so beautiful. I mean, the scenery is so beautiful, but the people embrace it. It's their Super Bowl. The Baja 1000, the Baja 500 is their Super Bowl, the World Series, the Stanley Cup, everything boiled into like 48 hours, right? And it's so much to them as the country and the people. But the race itself is everything it's cracked up to be. And it's the stories you've heard about how hard it is physically, mentally, mechanically, and then the race strategy and just physically getting through it. It's awesome.
It's definitely on the bucket list. I've looked at a couple of UTV trips that do like a run from Baja. It's like 250 miles over 3 days, and that's one of the like absolute top of the bucket list that I want to do, is run Baja in something.
Yeah, no, it is. I still love it. It's time consuming. We go down and we pre-run with BF Goodrich at least a week before the race, and it's usually right after SEMA. So it's like the month of November you're checked out. But it's pre-run, and get your act together, try and get hydrated, and then race week, and it's just an awesome time.
That's pretty sweet.
So go ahead.
Well, I'm just curious now, because knowing the type of person that you are, Kyle, you don't strike me as somebody that's just going to sit in your shop tinkering with cars. So what does the future hold for Kyle Tucker? Are you ready to let the world know? There's got to be something exciting on the horizon.
There is. I'm helping Holley. They wanted me to work 40 hours a week, and I said no. I'm probably a terrible employee after working for myself for so long. And so we agreed to like 20 hours a week. I'm helping with developing some of the new product strategy and new product development on the cars. And I've got things I still want to finish for them. But 20 hours a week is like a day and a half for me after all the years you work to try and be successful in this industry. And so it leaves a lot of extra time. But at the same time, for 20 years I was so on the gas with work and too scared not to work, to go in and try and make the next part or finish the next car, do the next business deal, that I set a lot of things to the side. So I'm very fortunate now with the family I have to spend a little time with the kids and learn to be a stepdad. With teenagers, it's hard to do, but I'm having fun, and spending time with Jordan and enjoying that life, but at the same time balancing what I want to do with all the projects I set to the side. It's been really fun. So that's keep me busy the first kind of year and a half. But I definitely have things I'm working on, kind of science projects on the side. Working with Chevrolet on one of the new Camaro projects with them on some ride and handling. So that's really fun to me, and tying Holley into that too. And may do some racing with that program in the next future, even in the near future, even in February down at Daytona. So lining some of that up. And at the same time, yeah, I'm young enough. The industry means everything to me. I love getting younger people into this industry, and we're fortunate to work in to see what it's like. So it's important to me to bring new people and attract younger people into the industry and still stay working in the industry. It's all I've done. It's all I know is cars and either OEMs or aftermarket.
February in Daytona, is that some 24-hour racing?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. If we you gonna answer our phone if we like just show up down in Daytona?
Yeah, we know Kyle. We're here.
Yeah, we're here with Kyle. Yeah.
Kyle's
Well,
here.
you know, you guys bring those jiggers and the shakers and everything, though, for after the race. Right?
That's fine. Well, now we come to the part of the standard questions that we ask every single guest. This is what the fans want. They want to hear these standard questions because you'd be amazed, Kyle. I don't know if you've ever listened to an episode. You'd be amazed at the answers that we get from some of our guests. But first up, what is your favorite SEMA story? But if you're saving that for story time, then we'll bypass that and go to the next one. If it's
let me think. Let me think.
I mean, he's won Battle of the Builders twice, so how
you're right. Okay,
yeah, how do you hone in on
winning
like,
Battle of the Builders?
So the first Battle
two
of the
more
Builders
times
was
than everybody else has won. Yeah.
Now one more time than anybody else, but I've lost just as much as anybody else, right? Those are definitely special moments, you know, being up there. And I remember the first year I'm looking at Jeff Kinsey's thinking JSK with that you know, that car that they built. Orange four-door that they brought. I'm like, that's the winner. So I'm looking at Jeff, and we just snuck over to the side while they were on like TV break to work through things, and we're eating tacos and drinking beers. I'm like, you got this. So I'm looking at him when they announced my name. So it's really crazy. And you know, the second time we won, the same thing. It's the least I expected to be able to win. We brought a great car. There's so many great cars there that I look up to. And I guess the neatest thing about that is you get to spend time with your peers that respect the car you brought, like you guys. You know, we get to spend a day talking cars with each other. And yeah, there's some TV foo-foo going on and things for SEMA, but it's really fun that, and I guess fulfilling to me that you've got you guys, you know, Jeremy and Phil from Roadster Shop, and you've got Alloway, and you've got Chip, or you've got, you know, Leach, Andy Leach, all these guys, and you get to talk cars, and it's just really, really cool to me to be able to be that way with your peers and hang out at SEMA at that level. So that's probably one of the coolest stories. We've all got the parties, right? You guys throw some of the biggest parties in the past, but you've got that, and you've got the dinners. But SEMA was always hard, you know, because we were there as to exhibit. We were there to hopefully bring a car to compete by Friday or Saturday night, or by Friday night. And then we're competing in Optima in the Ultimate Streetcar deal by Friday night and Saturday and Sunday. So it was always a real ball buster week, right? To get through, and no complaints, no regrets, but it was just draining by the time you got to the end of the week. And then Sunday night, we packed the trailer up at Las Vegas Motor Speedway, and I'm headed to Mexico for pre-run. So it's just, looking back, it's like, wow, how did you do that? But you're just so on adrenaline rush to get through it. It's all highs, you know.
You get back to the shop in 3 weeks, and everyone's like, must be nice. Went out in Vegas, had a great time.
You're right. Now you have like a sinus infection. You're sick from being in Mexico, and then there's Thanksgiving and family, right?
Yeah. I'd say the month leading up to SEMA is usually pretty relaxing as well. So
yeah, that's
you can gain your energy there.
That's a walk in the park.
Like pure Einstein, for some reason, we used to do Charlotte Good Guys, right? Was in town right before we left for SEMA. So we always did this big party open house. Like the weekend, we're trying to load and go to SEMA.
Yeah, it's going to be brutal.
And it was brutal, but we had, each time we kept getting it bigger and better and more people, and it was a blast. I loved our open houses and seeing everybody.
You did do one thing right that we learned. It took a while, but having a driver. So it used to be me and my old man. We'd get in the truck and make that run to SEMA. So we'd be
Right.
like driving 24 hours straight to get there, and then be worn out by the time we get there.
Yeah, that turned your 10-day SEMA deal into like a
Into
13-day,
14,
14-day SEMA.
Yeah, your dad was hardcore though. I mean, I looked up to him in so many ways, and always looked forward to seeing him and talking just whatever he wanted to talk about. It was so fun.
That's awesome to
times.
hear, man.
He was such a nice guy too, and told you, it didn't matter what he was thinking. He would always sugarcoat it just a little bit, to make you feel good about yourself
Right.
and stuff.
Oh yeah, definitely was sugar.
Yeah, but
it was exactly what.
There's 1 grain of sugar
Yeah.
in there.
It was 0 grams of sugar.
As I got to know him year after year and weekend after weekend, where we were all at, I'm like, man, would I love to be in the shop, like on a Tuesday midday when there's nobody else around, and just hear what he's really like in the shop.
Oh, I'm glad you would like that.
Yeah,
Because
you line
the
of
guys,
ex-employees.
the guys who were in the shop didn't really like that much.
You could be outside of the shop sometimes and know what he was like.
But I consider your dad a lot like Troy's dad, Jack.
Yeah.
I mean, oh my gosh, the Jack stories, and he and I always hit it off, and luckily, but a lot of good times, a lot of good stories. But I know he was like super no BS at the shop, right? We've got to get this done,
yeah.
and we've got to make money. That's what all of us have to do.
That's it.
What's the best car movie of all time?
Oh, man. Well, outside of the typical, right? You guys ever seen Dust to Glory?
Yeah.
The original Dust to Glory,
Yep.
not Dust to Glory 2.
Yep.
That's to
I
glory.
like that one.
You get on either Netflix or Prime. I think it's got it.
That's to glory, huh? That's a new one.
By Dana Brown, the original, back in probably early 2000s. It was on, but it's a pretty neat snapshot of some history of Baja and the race and what goes on with the racers and the motorcycle guys and everything.
Let's check that out.
Yeah.
First car you ever owned?
A 69 GMC short bed pickup. That was my go-to.
Good truck. Short bed too. Not many.
Yeah.
Not many first is a short bed.
Oh,
But being a farm kid, it had the true steel white spokes on it, right? And big mud and snows on the back. And my dad was a hot rodder, so it kind of had skinny tires on the front, so you can get the look from there.
nice little rake on it. Huh?
Yeah, exactly. Big rake.
Little alleyway rake. Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, because you were so gracious to stay on as long as your phone has power, it's time for story time with Kyle Tucker.
Yeah.
Now, we prefaced it earlier that Troy brought some heaters. All right. So
He held nothing back.
he held nothing
There
back.
was no shame in Troy's game.
Yeah.
And this segment started off as it was supposed to be Roadster Shop Storytime, where we tell stories about the crap that's going on in the shop. But then we realized
Yep.
that we're talking to some super cool people.
And the guests
And-
have had better stories.
Yeah.
I urge you to go back and listen to Troy's episode to hear his story about Chip Foose and their trip to Japan. And that's all I'll
Okay.
say.
I'll do it.
It had us rolling. So it's time for you to bring some story time.
Well, one that I guess Jeremy and Phil and your dad, I don't know how many people we had in that HHR that night, but we were in Texas, I think, they're good guys.
Yeah.
And it was like the Volkswagen, the Beetle clown car, right? I don't know how many people we had in there, but I swear it was like us. And I think Rick Love was in there from Vintage Air. Your dad. I don't know how many people anyway.
John had to be.
Right.
John probably from Classic. Yeah. And I guess we started at Babe's Chicken, right? That's where
Yeah.
you go to eat dinner at least one night at Good Guys, Fort Worth. So we had been there, and I don't remember where. You guys will have to add to it where we went after that. But we were coming back, and didn't it start raining? It was like dark and raining.
Yeah, it started raining. We were headed back to the hotel, and
Yeah.
like, oh, Kyle's driving. We got this.
Yeah, so I'm heading my handicap. I said it's raining.
He wasn't on rain
And-
tires, was he?
Yeah, I wasn't on rain tires. We had a dry setup in the HHR and everything in the rental. And
A little,
so
Enterprise.
little
anyway,
too much rear weight.
Enterprise didn't
Yeah,
hook that up.
some of those damn farm to market roads, right? They start merging as you get on the highway. And all I remember is it's raining like hell. Everybody's laughing and having a good time in the car. Like I said, we must have went somewhere after Babes because we were having a good time. And we come up on this merge lane, and I'm like, I hate people in front of me, whether it's on the track or on the highway. I do not like people in front of me. So I'm trying to get in front of this guy, and all of a sudden, the last minute, I see this concrete curb into this merge lane, and we rocket this HHR up off the curb on the left sides, and we're like Joey Chitwitting it on the right side wheels and tires. For a while, we merge in front of this cat, whoever we were trying to beat, to the merge lane. And I'm like, I got this. It all settled down. Everybody's laughing, high-fiving, I think, and we're going to the hotels. And pretty soon we start getting the wedge on the left side going down, right? So I don't remember who I dropped off at the hotels first, but it's like, wherever your hotel's at, we got to stop at the gas station first to air up the left side because they're going flat. And so we dropped somebody off. We run over to the gas station. I think you guys were last to get out. And we pump up the left side tires. And once we get out of the car, we see that like they're like waffled on the flatted on the steel wheels, right? Hubcaps are off, and totally flat spots on the wheels, on the steel wheels on the rental. So drop somebody else off at the next hotel, go to the gas station, pump them back up, do this 3 or 4 times over, and finally get the car, I guess, back to the track that night. Somehow I take the car back to the track, and I think Keith was with me. And we parked the rental there. Somehow we get back to our room. And I guess that was Saturday night. So Sunday morning, we have to get up. I have to figure out how to get this rental back. One, enough that it can drive back to Enterprise where we were from and not get charged for 2 sets of wheels and tires. So I guess luckily the autocross was over by then. And we sober up, get to the track. And I remember I jack up the HHR in the pit, take the left sides off, take the wheels in the trailer, steel wheels, and I had a 4-pound mini sledge, just start wailing on the rims to get them somewhat round and seat. And we aired them up. And I guess Keith had went back and found at least one of the hubcaps, beat the wheels back around where they would hold air, got them to hold air, put one hubcap back in, and we'd take it back to the rental car. And I never got charged for that.
Nicely done. That's awesome. Yeah, I remember rolling in the next morning, Sunday morning, and just like it dawned on us like everything that actually happened, and you just hear a ting, 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 ting. I know what he's doing. What the fuck is that? Walk around and look, and Kyle's over there just sweating, just pounding on the spare tire, beating it out.
So I wasn't there for that, but I remember Phil calling me and he's like, dude, it's like Kyle's fucking human. It's like, I'm telling you, he's human. He finally made a mistake. It's like when the superhero, their powers wear off for a minute.
You can see the real human.
Found the chink in the armor is the merge lane.
Yeah, it was like the merge lane, whoever that Texan was, it was in front of me. I did not want him in front of me. But you got to stick with me, Phil. We were at least like 45 degrees up,
if
right?
not more.
That's awesome.
I was sitting in the middle of the back seat, and I saw it coming, and I'm just like, there's a oh shit. He's got to see it.
No, I didn't. It hit hard too.
Yeah. That was an awesome evening.
That was
good times.
That was a good story. That's exactly the type of
stuff
stories
we're
that
looking
we want.
for.
Yeah. So if you're any future guests that are planning to come on, you want to stick around for story time, you better bring the heat. Yeah. You got any good Baja stories? There's got to be some good Baja stories.
Man, every year there's a story. Mike Johnson and I don't know if you guys know Mike Jr. Johnson, but he's a awesome, like multi-time SCCA champion pavement guy, right? And he and I were driving together one night, middle of the night, out in the middle of nowhere. And we hit this rock. I still remember this rock. Of all the square inches of Baja, if I were to see this rock again, I would like, that's the rock right there we hit. And middle of the night, it was like 2 a.m, cold as hell. And we were in this really remote section. And our BFG boss told us, is like, Mike and Kyle, you guys have this section. If you screw up, you're going to be there a while. So just keep moving, right? And he always told us, moving is fast, stop is slow. So that was always, Baja is like you drive what you see, right? You don't drive any faster than that because you never know what's in front of you. So we're tired and we're chasing somebody in the dust. And Mike, I was co-driving at that point. I'd already finished driving. Mike was driving, and we hit this huge rock. Like I said, I could still picture it. And
Was there a
right
merge
front,
lane
and
before it?
No, maybe it was a farm to market sign, I think. So anyway, I see the right front go like past the roll cage, and pretty soon I see the control arm go past me and everything.
No.
And it's like we go down on the right front, and we're like, we're stuck. So anyway, we stop, get out, and like, I don't know how we're gonna fix it. We have tools, we have spare parts, but we don't have stuff to fix this. So anyway, I finally had enough safety wire and like channel locks and sticks and things that we basically pulled the lower control arm up so it wasn't dragging in the sand, and tried to like put a log underneath of it and drive a little bit. And we made it like, I don't know, a mile or so, and it all came undone. So anyway, we were stuck there 19 hours, no food, no water.
Oh,
and we had no satellite phone service because we were in such a remote section down in this valley. And at the same time, we're still pretty high elevation, and so it was getting cold as shit. So about 5 a.m. when the sun comes up, I'm like working on the car trying to do something to keep me warm because we're going to freeze to death, and then we're going to starve to death. So like 6 o'clock that next evening, we're still there, and the buzzards are flying above us. They're like checking us out because like we're going to be food for them pretty soon. And so anyway, they had sent in, BF Goodrich does it really awesome. I mean, the chase support, the safety and everything that they do, they really take care of us. But they had sent in somebody, and they couldn't get to us. It was so like hostile terrain. And the next guy came in with a heavy Hummer, H1 Chase Hummer. They broke. They sent in another Hummer and finally got to us that next in the night sometime.
Shit, where's the helicopters at, man?
So-
Come on.
So we're talking about Baja. We're talking about stories. Talking about the HHR. That one's gonna stick.
That was a ride.
It's no.
It was a ride.
Yeah.
Is that? I wonder if that's the reason why Rob McGaffin got a HHR. He probably
because Kyle had one.
Yeah. And he
A
mistakenly
rental.
he mistakenly thought that was a cool story.
He thought Kyle
Yeah.
owned it. He's like, oh yeah, be badass.
Sorry, Rob.
It had
I love you.
hubcaps, just so you know.
Had is the key word there.
Exactly.
So what's I mean, you talked about you're hanging out with family, you're doing the dream thing. You're working on cars, you're having to give Holley 19.9 hours a week, and nothing more. And but there's got to be some stuff that you would like to do in the horizon. Is there a car that you want to build? Is there other products that you've got? I mean, tell us. You're not a young man, but you're not an old man either. I mean, you've got
I've got more in the rear view than the front view probably, but I still have a lot I want to do and still have time to do it. So it's good. Even motorsports wise, I want to be able to do Bonneville at some point. That's still on my list. Pikes Peak, and definitely some more Baja. I love all that stuff. It's just how I grew up. I love driving, competing, learning more about, whatever car you're trying to race and do better. So that's still on the horizon. Yeah, more family for sure. Jordan and the kids and I definitely spend more time together. We've got a place on the lake here in outside of Mooresville, and it's a good getaway for us. So we love doing that. And now I've just got a better balance. I've got time to work on the things that I want to work on without the daily grind. But at the same time, spend time with family and catch up on those things that I never really, looking back, didn't prioritize and regret in some ways. But at the same time, we're in it to do what you got to do in front of you every day. And I just, like I said, I was too afraid not to work because we had so much going on.
What's the best piece of advice you've ever received?
Man, that's a good one. It's probably to pay attention to the people who've been through before you. The people that are older, that have more experience. When you're a teenager and you're just full of it and ready to go all the time on the gas, looking back, make sure you take stock in those people that have been there, done that, and are willing to pass it on. I think that's really important in our industry. Like I said, a lot of people have passed on a lot of things to me, including low back and You know, a lot of the top builders, Alloway and Brizio, and I don't want to leave anybody out because there's so many people that helped me get started from that generation. Troy and I've talked a lot. So it's something to make sure you listen. Take time to listen. People have been there, even if it doesn't make sense at the time, it will make sense later.
Respect your elders.
Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely.
Yeah. You don't see that a ton with like the younger, newer generation of car builders. I think that was something that as we came up the ranks, I mean, I feel like we idolized so many accomplished builders.
They could do no wrong.
Yeah.
And you listened to every word they said. You read every article. And I mean, you took it to heart. And there was never like I don't know, we talked about this before. It was never oh yeah, fuck that guy. Must be nice, must be easy. He's getting all these magazine stuff. There was never any kind of jealousy or hatred or anything like that. It was emulation. It was always like, oh man, that's awesome.
Yep.
You know, what is he doing that we can try to do or something like that? It's different. It is different these days. It feels like there's not the looking up to or, stuff like that. It's always kind of I don't know. It's a different vibe. I don't know how to describe it. I don't know if that makes any sense, Kyle, but
no, it does. I think we all, and you're right, you touched on it, magazines, and I'm not saying magazines are the only way, but it was a big part of how we grew up, right? And you idolized. I read cover to cover, and I knew everything in the magazines month to month, and you look forward to that. And it's different now. I mean, people's attention span, the respect level, what you can learn from somebody that's been here and done that, it's different now. And I'm not saying it's better or worse. It's just different. I don't want to sound like an old guy because I feel like I'm kind of that guy that's in between the generations, older than you guys, right? But at the same time, younger than, of course, than the Lobecks and the Brizios and some of those guys that have done this a long time. So I'm kind of that bridge in between.
That's nice of you to tell yourself that.
It's flattering for you too, Josh.
Yeah. It makes me feel real good.
We won't get into that, Jerry.
If you could go back in time at any point in time, what time would it be and what advice would you give yourself?
I don't have many regrets. I always committed to what I want to do. I was always of the mindset that energy and persistence can conquer a lot, and I always put a lot into it. But when I came to that fork in the road between wanting to race just all the time, that's all that mattered was race, and doing the engineering thing because I thought that was the right thing to do. I'm not no regrets, but at the same time, my next step was into sprint cars. I wanted to run more sprint cars. I ran some, but that's one thing that if I were to go back into the probably early 90s, coming out of the midgets and having some opportunities to drive some sprint cars and dedicate myself to that, that's one thing that I wonder what would have happened, But at the same time, I feel like I don't need to do that now. I'm too old to wake up in a hospital on Monday morning and wonder what the hell just happened to me.
This one just came to me, and I don't know if I can articulate it correctly, but with all of your racing background, everything that you've done, as fast as you've driven, all the different type of aspects of racing, the autocross was great for a lot of people. And it still is. It's still amazing. Did you ever at one point be like, these guys are taking this shit way too seriously for what it is? And you're like, dude, I've actually raced. This is like exhibition.
I've passed people on the track.
Right, I've passed people on the track. That we are in the parking. We are in a parking lot.
That's Josh. That's a great topic, and I've thought a lot about that driving back from some of these deals on Sunday nights back to the shop. And you've made just hundreds of laps in the early days when we got a lot of laps, right? When we were doing it in the early days, and I look at it both ways. There are some people that can autocross that are awesome drivers. Like, I wish I could be at that level. People that you compete against, and lots of names that have competed in the SCCA and on and good guys, everything. But at the same time, you learn a lot from autocross, right? But to me, it was always, I love the wheel-to-wheel competition. I love the mind games with other drivers, whether it's on the yellow flags or green flags or whatever. I love that aspect of it. But nothing against autocross. There are some people that are like, wow, that guy or that girl is really, really good. And I wish I could do that, but it teaches you to be a better driver, I think, in a lot of ways. But nothing against autocrossers. There's a lot of talent out there that I never got to, but got to compete with some of them. But I love the wheel to wheel and the like I said, the mental and even the physical part when you get into these long races. And I love that part of it too, when it's a real challenge, when you got to pick yourself up and stay in the seat and hang on to the steering wheel and get it done.
I've always wanted to ask somebody, especially you, that has done it so long in the autocross and raced all these different things. There's got to be a time, when you're trying to come to a stop in a cone box, or you're, going around, that's flashback of that 11:30 at night in Missouri, on a wing car, and you're hunkered down and that left front is pulled, and you're in, that's a little different racing.
It's a different game. I mean, it's violent, it's scary every second.
Yeah.
But autocross is so much of a precision, timing, and more patience than aggression, but it's still competing, right? It's still competing. It's very precise, where on a lot of times the wheel to wheel, especially sprint cars, and midgets, it is so aggressive and so violent that it's just, you're trying to outman the next guy you're racing with.
I wasn't trying to prove a point. I wanted to see where it went.
I feel like you're like describing it like your childhood, like your Uncle Larry's faded T-shirt. I feel like it's what you keep describing. You're seeing like this, like there's like that, sprint car with the.
Jeremy, I still have a tote of all my race car T-shirts from like the '80s. So I don't know what
those
I'm hanging
things
on
must
to them
be
for, but
gold.
I still have them.
Start at eBay store. Those things are probably worth big money.
Send me a couple of those for sure.
Sure.
I think the autocross played a huge role in our industry and in both of our companies, and it was like that was the arena to showcase what our cars could do and what our products could do. So
yeah, it was. It was kind of like between us, and at the time, again, I don't want to leave anybody out because there's a lot of people involved, but Brett, Ride Tech, right, us, gosh, we just beat our heads into the ground every weekend and went back to work and came back the next Friday to do the same thing. But I think we all learned a lot from it. I think it probably upped the industry some, everybody involved, and the cars got better, parts got better, drivers got better, the new people coming in that bought our parts got better. So I think it was a key time in the industry. And you look back into the 70s, NSRA had like the Gymkhana stuff, right? And it was a different time where they had the T-buckets and the Roadsters doing that stuff, but it was definitely more competitive, when we were doing it, I think, Phil, for sure.
it gave a lot of people like a reason to build a car. I mean, how many people we talked to were building an autocross car? They're building an Optima car.
Yeah.
I thought it was a great arena for us to showcase. And going back to the old days, I mean, that's kind of what ruined it for me. Once it became popular, the first 3 or 4 years, we would go out there and we would put 50, 60 runs a day, and we were blistering tires in an afternoon from just heating them up too much. And then it got to be like, well, you'll run 4 times a day. And
the Optima thing at the beginning, I think, was absolutely fucking amazing. And I get what it is now. But for me, when it first started and they were putting such an emphasis on really pushing those SEMA cars, those pro touring air quotes, cars, you better get out there and beat on it. And it was a status symbol. It was something you had to do. And it was those cars that were built that way. And it wasn't about the full-blown race cars, because if you wanted to build a full-blown race car, build a full-blown race car and enter into a race circuit. And it was those cars with street car parts and putting them to the test.
It's legitimizing the show cars.
Yeah, it was amazing. The stuff that they put together. And not a dig at where they're at now. I mean, I get where you got to do what you got to do. But if you're bringing a full-blown race car to a street car oriented event, of course you're going to dominate,
Right. And, I think at the time it quickly became Optima, like any race series. The first year is pretty legitimate, pretty honest. The next year gets more carried away, no matter whether you're street stocks or what level you're racing at. Optima was the same way. It was legit street cars for the first few years. But I think even the legit road racers on slicks and real on race cars took note of some of the lap times that some of those Optima cars on 200 treadwear tires were making. It was on the edge, and it was really faster than it probably should have been. But that's where it elevated to really quickly,
right,
for a street car.
It was a great event. I mean, you had cars and builders from all walks of life. I mean, you had Troy Ladd out there in a Roadster pickup, you know, and you had a Chevelle, and you had Detroit Speed, and you had Roadster Shop, and you had all these people really showcasing their products, and it was like, holy shit, this is awesome, because it was the first time you got to see them on that level. I mean, on a road course and doing stuff like that and being so up close to them.
Yeah.
It was a fun time.
It was.
Next and probably last question: what's the top 3 most shittiest suspension companies out there?
You're still trying, aren't you?
Sorry.
Boom, boom, boom! I've got it, man.
I love the way he slid that in there. That was something.
And we all have the same list. It's been fun because, I mean, I don't know if they'll cut this out or what, but honestly, we've been competitors. But we've been friends. You know, we've bounced ideas off of each other. We've had many of glasses of whiskey. We've hung out and just bullshitted, non-car related and car related. And we've both done our thing in business. And it's been a pleasure to compete against each other in such a, I guess, friendly manner, but being pushed by somebody doing actual good things, and good products. I know I'm not saying the right things or using the right words, but
I think you are. I know where you're going with that. It's a pleasure to be surrounded by good competition that you respect. There's a lot of people, you know, in the industry that, you know, not to, you know, name names or anything, but there's some people that, you know, maybe don't build the greatest product or represent themselves, you know, the most ethical way. But, you know, there's Detroit Speed has always been a company that I've had the utmost respect for. And, you know, there's plenty of people that I've talked to or have called here that are looking for a product, and maybe we don't have the right piece. And I'm happy to steer them to Detroit Speed for, you know, if that's the right product for them. There's plenty of people I will steer them the complete other direction. But, you know, Detroit Speed and you, Kyle, you guys have always been, you know, a class act, and it's been fun. I think it made the industry exciting. It gives you something to work for and to get out of bed every day. And it's nice to have good, respectful competition out there.
Yeah, it was fuel for the fire, you know, kind of like
benchmarks that made you want to keep getting better and coming up with new stuff. And we'd see what you'd come up with, and we'd come up with something, and it just kind of kept going. And
and it always puts you in like a sweet spot to where you never had to push to be the fastest out there. You always just had to push to be as close to Kyle as you could get. That was the win. It was like, you don't have to win. Like, you know, you're not going to win, but like, if you could get, like, how close were you to, oh yeah, we were like 0.2 of a second off of Kyle. Like, that's, oh, you're fucking flying.
No, I appreciate it. I think we each fueled each other. I mean, I don't know how many times, and you guys were the same way, I'm sure, driving home on Sunday night, the rig, your car, or whatever. And it's like you guys fueled me, others fueled me to get back to the shop Monday morning. And if anything, I guess I was brought up, like I said, small town, Midwest, blue collar. You want to outwork somebody else. And that's what always drove me, was like, get back to work and try and do something better. You learn from the weekend. Let's get back and do it better next week. And I think we all fueled each other. And to me, it was, like I said, looking back now, it seems like we all collectively brought the industry, not suspension, not just electrical, not just air, I mean, a lot of things forward in the industry by pounding on those cars like we did every weekend. And I used, you know, Mast Motors down in Texas a lot, and their thing for DSE was not Detroit Speed and Engineering. It was done scattered everything. But I mean, we pushed every weekend, you know, as hard as we could. And we pushed a lot of the other people too, to try and bring up the street game into where we were playing at, where we wanted to be at.
I think Brett had you beat on scattering things.
Yeah.
he did too. He did.
We were at the Autobahn Country Club here for one of the Optima events, I think. And it was on Sunday. We ran all day Friday, all day Saturday, and into Sunday. And I was talking with Chris and Linda Jacobs. We're sitting on the tower watching them go by. He's like, man, Brett's looking really fast. I'm like, yeah, it's Sunday, and he hasn't blown anything up yet. The next lap, kaboom, fucking blows the whole bottom out. It's like, oh, there we go. It's an event now. Brett blew something up.
Yeah.
Hard on parts, man.
Yeah, it's, I guess, it's difficult because, I mean, reminiscing, I mean, they say remember when is the lowest form of conversation, but we
say that?
It's this thing that they say. Yeah.
Huh.
But we end up doing that a lot on this podcast is remembering when and talking about stories and talking about, you know, the good old days and then what's to come and what the future is.
Right.
And I think that I echo everyone by saying that you're a part of the family. You're a part of the core group. You know, we've talked to a lot of different guests and a lot of different people, but from where we all got our start and kind of growing up and cutting our teeth, I guess, together. You're part of the family.
Yeah, thank you. No, it's fun. I mean, we do. We look back, had a lot of good times. We learned a lot, but it's an exciting time now, and even in the future. You know, with kids coming into it now and what they can learn and what they can do, it's still a really cool time to be in the industry.
Where do you think the industry is going in the next 5 years?
You know, I mean, EV has to be a part of it, but just as I say that, I love to hear that kids are, you know, digging on 32 Fords or 40 Fords or something like that. So to me, I'm very thankful that people are getting into the old school stuff. And you guys have seen it. It all cycles back around, but I'm just as excited to see that too.
Well, I think we've been talking about that a lot lately is counterculture is always counterculture. And whatever the culture becomes, you're always going to have the counter to that. And if the major group of the population is going towards EV, you're going to have that counterculture that says, fuck that. I want to do, you know, flathead 32, or I want to do, you know, whatever. And it's, you're always going to have the anti. Because we just always stay in the anti.
You know, you ask if I read any of this. So, Kyle, we shared this. This is the Speed and Power Handbook that I picked up. It's from 1949, and there's actually open right up to it. A Studebaker. It has speeds over 100 miles per hour and gets 26 miles per gallon with the racing gear ratios that they've put into it and the coil modifications. So you talk about EV, you talk about fuel mileage. That's 1949, 26 miles to the gallon. I mean, that's
a big deal.
Yeah, that's no joke.
I know that there's going to be tremendous opportunities in the EV world. I mean, we've built even right now, we've built a great group,
significant number.
Several. I mean, a dozen more.
Many
EV chassis. And I know that there's going to be a market for that, and there's going to be all kinds of sub markets and all types of different things out there. I get it. There always will be. I don't know how you feel about it personally, but I think that roar and that anti whatever the establishment's doing and that hardcore like fuck the man kind of thing is always going to be there.
Yeah, big block Chevys and blowers, man. It'll still be around.
Yeah,
that's what's cool is, you know, I married into the family that has teenagers, and William is into cars, my son, and he doesn't like any of the stuff I have, right? I mean, I shouldn't say that. He does. He likes them, but they kind of like they're knuckle draggers compared to him, you know. Like clutchless transmissions and things like that. He likes, but they're crude to him. He likes European and things. So we go to this car show the other night, and it's called a meetup, right? It's a meetup at like AutoZone or something. So I go to it, and I've been to, like you guys, car shows and races and events all over the world, all over the country, big and small. And anyway, we go to this thing, and there's like 500 cars at this deal. And it's all kinds. It's Mazdas, it's Nissans, it's Camaros, it's everything. The dude pulled up with a with an LS7 stuck in the front of a Subaru WRX, no sheet metal in the front, and zoomies out the top. And I'm like, at least they're into cars and they're getting it done. And they were out like doing donuts in the corner of the parking lot and stuff that we would have done at their age. So it's really neat to see that.
Yeah, there's guys LSA swapping Miatas. Have you seen that?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah,
they put CTS V. They take a bunch of rear suspension components from the CTS and put them in there. It's surreal. I'm not just making fun of Phil here because Phil is an avid Miata enthusiast. But up there at the throttle stop,
you guys know way more about them than I do.
No, up there at the throttle stop in Elkhart Lake, they had the thing up on the lift, and he's got a bunch of them. They're like spec race cars. I mean, that's got to be
an LSA and a Miata.
Yeah,
that's got to be
fast,
fucking rocket ship.
Yeah.
But I'm with you, Kyle. I think that they're always going to be they think they're doing something so different than everybody else, but there's always going to be that group of guys that are wanting to be different. And I mean, with everybody pushing so hard on EVs, you're just going to push a shit ton more kids into gas burners.
Yeah, I agree.
But it's been great. I think we're going to have to do a round 2 and fly you up so you can have you in studio.
I'd love to do that. You guys have a cool setup there, it looks like. I haven't been to the shop in a long time, but it looks really cool. And I'm anxious to go back and catch up on some episodes now. And definitely the Troy. I'm a big Troy boy, so I'll catch up on that. He and his team.
Troy one was good. Where are you going to be? Are you going to be at SEMA?
Yeah, I'll be there a few days at SEMA, and you guys will be there too, right? We can catch up.
Yep, yeah, be there.
I could do.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I forgot.
Look forward to it.
I'm sorry. The one thing we ask every single guest, it's time. You got to do a pocket dump. What's in your pockets right now?
Oh, let's see. It's always the same thing every day. It's chapstick because I'm addicted to chapstick. So that.
Go ahead and say it, Josh.
Yeah.
You want to say
and a case pocket knife. Got that.
Sweet.
Old school.
My wife gave it to me. It's engraved, so it's in my pocket every day.
Sweet.
And I am a front pocket wallet guy.
Nice. He's got one of the. Is that a Ridge wallet?
Yeah, it is.
That's what Josh is rocking.
Yeah, I'm rocking the Ridge. My kid. I've been doing the big fat leather dad wallet for years, and my kids got me the Ridge wallet for Father's Day, and I'm telling you what, I didn't think I was gonna like it, but I became a believer.
Yeah, I do. I like it. It forced me to like simplify and pare down a little bit, but it's good, I think.
Awesome. Great. You're over here puffing your chest out for a win because of the chapstick, aren't you?
Yeah, these guys.
Are you a chapstick guy?
Yeah,
Jeremy?
I fuck with a little bit of chapstick, and these guys, these guys are always busting my balls, fuck them.
All right, win to you.
I'm with you, man. Hey, it's addictive. Once you get on it, you can't stop.
That's right. You heard it here, Kyle Tucker.
I appreciate it, Kyle. If we don't talk to each other before SEMA, we'll see you out there, and we got to schedule a round 2 for you to come up in person.
I'd love to do that, guys. I'm really, really happy with what you guys are doing, and
thanks, Kyle.
Making the rounds with everybody. It's really cool. So kudos to you guys, and keep digging what you're doing.
Okay, so it is finally, the time has come.
This is taking forever.
The time has come for me to create my cocktail. So
I think it took that long to get all this stuff.
No,
Stillhouse, great brand, great sponsor. They sent us a bunch of stuff. If you go back and listen to some of the very first episodes, you can hear us talking about Stillhouse. Me and Phil both did our thing. We brought our drinks to the table. The entire shop's been waiting to judge the drinks.
They've been waiting.
Now Jeremy's
I finally brought it.
Yep, bring it.
I tried this is round 3. I tried 2 other cocktails, and I arrived at this. The apple was a tough pull, to be honest. It's a kind of a fall thing. I was hung with the apple. You got you were
cherry.
You were the peach. You were the cherry. The cherry's easy. Yeah. I mean, you make a cherry old fashioned. You do all sorts of stuff. I mean, even the dude from north of Bourbon set us up with a cherry kind of old fashioned drink.
Imagine if they had a pumpkin flavor one.
You want me to just run across the street and just get like a little pumpkin spice latte and pour some bourbon in it?
Jeremy PSL Gerber.
All right. So what I have created here is It's an apple
Might
cider.
get legs.
I think so.
Yeah, fuck you guys. It's an apple cider bourbon sour. It has a tremendous amount of ingredients, as you can
I
see.
see
I have
that.
filled the table with things, but I like cocktails. You know, I like to make cocktails.
You
So-
do a great job at it.
Thank you.
So you start.
So I'm
preparing.
gonna just go ahead and
I'm-
make this thing,
and
and
I'm
you
gonna-
give the
I'm gonna give the
commentary because I'll be over
play-by-play.
here doing it.
I have no idea what you're putting in, but I'm gonna guess the whole way.
This could be good.
So that's a stainless steel
Yeti.
Yeti, right?
Now he's got the two-sided cup.
We know we're doing. That's a jigger.
I call it a two-sided
Oh,
cup.
apple cider. Okay, got some apple cider.
Was it hard to find that this time of
Is that,
year?
is that a full 2 ounces? Full 2 ounces of apple cider.
But we're gonna make.
It looks like it's now 4 ounces.
Okay.
It's 2 and 2 is 4.
Your drinks and then
Okay, so enough room. I got you. So if you're making a single cocktail, that's 2 ounces of apple cider.
Yes, correct. Single cocktail, 2 ounces of apple cider. You're gonna give it just a little squeeze of that. They, call for like a teaspoon. I call it just like a smidgen. So
A squirt.
that's like 2 smidgens. There's 1 smidgen. 2 smidgen.
How does a smidgen compare to a dollop?
Little honey. It's about half of a dollop.
Okay.
Okay, so you got that. Now your key ingredient. That's your Stillhouse Black Bourbon.
Hang on. I think we need to pivot you over here because everybody's looking at your back.
Small ass back.
Yep. Okay, well, give us just a few minutes and get this cocktail, and we'll roll into it. All right. So, how much of the black bourbon?
Ounce and a half for one cocktail.
one
So we
cocktail,
got
ounce
3 in
and a half.
there. Then we're taking the apple crisp.
Yep.
And we are going to do a half ounce of that.
Half ounce.
Okay. Bam.
Okay.
We are all in now on our whiskey. Got that? All right. Here's where the shit gets custom, fellas.
It's bagged ice.
Yep, we got. That is going to be half of a lemon for one. We're going to do a full lemon.
What
we
is
have
that?
Here, secret ingredient.
Secret?
Secret ingredient.
You're not even going to tell us what it is?
No, you're going to just drink that.
That smells like
I'm not-
pineapple juice.
You are going to enjoy it.
You know what that looks like.
It's not. We're gonna
You're quick on that.
we're gonna fill that with some ice.
You're gonna
fellas.
drink that first.
Hey, do me a favor. Make yourself do something
Yep.
while you're doing nothing. And grab those 2. Grab 2 coupe glasses if you would. Now we're gonna shake the shit out of this. Okay, got that?
Yep. You're lacking eye contact.
Yeah. I thought it's like a 1-2-1.
No, you gotta shake the shit
Shake
out
the
of
shit
it.
out of
I would have brought the paint mixing machine up here. I'm scared that there's only 2 glasses and he's not going to drink whatever's in the secret ingredient.
There's some secret ingredient left. I'm going to tell you something. That looks like a sample.
That's what I'm saying.
That's exactly what that looks like.
All right, here we go.
It's like a cloudy urine sample.
It's got some color to it.
What do we got there?
Wait, what is that?
Is it cinnamon?
You know I've got a nut allergy.
Okay, now here's the last thing. This gets super custom. I wasn't gonna do this, but my wife hooked it up. So
You're going to take out
Oh.
a fingertip.
A little nutmeg?
Fresh nutmeg.
a little bit of my fingertip in there for you. That one's for Josh. And now this.
Tell you what, with these ingredients, this is basically the Chuck Norris of cocktails. This is the manliest cocktail.
No, it's not necessarily the manliest cocktail.
Not the quickest.
Now we're doing a little smoking.
Over under on the fire alarm going off.
Nope, already shut it off, boys.
That's the
Thought
email I
ahead.
got earlier.
Yep.
Yes.
All right.
The
We're gonna
fire alarm was shut off.
we're gonna
Wood
let
put
that
on
simmer
test.
for a moment here.
What kind of wood are you using in that?
That's an apple wood. I stuck with the apple
Ah.
theme. So
What are you calling this cocktail? What's the name?
it's a apple whiskey sour, but the apple wood. Yeah, throw
Oh.
that in the middle.
Look at that.
That little smoker deal sets it off. You know, you take a simple cocktail, even an old fashioned in Manhattan, and you smoke it. You got something good there.
You think you can smoke a bourbon lemonade?
Yeah, you could.
I tell you what, that
you know what it would be?
smells-
Smoked bourbon lemonade.
That smells amazing. I'm
All right, boys.
tell you on smell, you've got it going on.
Okay.
3 apple slice.
Whoa.
I was thinking about
You're gonna fan that out a little
I'm
bit.
gonna fan that. See what I got going on there. And Phil, you get Blake. Okay.
Blake.
Yeah. And Blake hangs on
Handsome Blake Stone.
the bottom there.
Does he have to be upside down like
I didn't
that?
know that you added a little flair to these too.
Yeah. Let me smoke yours, Josh.
We need to get like a zoom in on the big camera there.
Look at that.
It is quite the presentation. A little bit of a spill.
We're gonna let that simmer.
Should I wait for Josh or do I get to drink this now?
That's up to you. We'll give that about 30 seconds for that thing to smoke out there, Josh.
Do we have
You want Spencer?
Yeah.
Okay,
It
you
is-
get
it's
Spencer.
got Spencer.
Yeah, no, it legitimately says Spencer right there. See that guy?
It says
Spencer.
Blake on his.
Yeah, it says Blake and Spencer.
Where did you find
you had him?
men?
Did you have those made?
Yeah.
You got those made.
No, they were at the
They
house.
come that
They were
way?
in like a thing. They're for wine glasses.
And they have Blake and Spencer's name on them.
They did, interestingly enough.
Hmm.
All right. You ready for this, Josh? Hey, get
The
a look.
Spencer one is almost life size.
Oh, look at that.
Garnished up there on the top. My man. Sucker. I don't know if the triple fan didn't work like I thought it would. What do you think the best way to do that is? I like them. Flip them around.
That's the key to the beverage.
All right, there you go.
Look at Spencer just hanging on for dear life.
All right. Well, cheers.
Cheers.
Super suspect that you're not drinking
Yeah,
one,
it just
but
takes a long time to do another one. I brought enough supplies.
Oh.
to do one more.
Man, the aroma.
it's got a smell
the
to it.
aroma's
I
something.
feel like the triple garnish didn't work out for me. I'm not loving it.
I
we
can
should
see
reduce
where you're
that.
saying with the fall because this is Christmas time. That's all
Yeah.
I smell.
Did they move Christmas to the fall this year?
I mean, winter, cold, Christmas. After fall, it's Christmas.
Okay, I was thinking like a Thanksgiving maybe.
Go ahead and eat the apple. You can eat the garnish. That's the good thing about the garnish.
Wow.
This isn't one of.
I'm not gonna give you the win, but it's pretty good.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Josh is dipping. He's making a meal out of it. I like it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Getting
that's
after
what
it.
it's all about, man. See, make it yours.
I'm scared to death for the picture of what's in the
No,
secret
so you want to know
ingredient.
what the ingredient? It's egg whites.
Really?
Yeah.
That's what that gave it that milkiness. when
That's
you
what it
shook
is.
up.
And the lemon kind of like
Yeah.
makes it so it doesn't kill you. I guess.
Tell you what, you've got some skills in the old cocktail
Thank you.
game.
Appreciate it.
Yeah.
It just takes so goddamn long. I'd like to do another one. I brought enough supplies for one more, but
That's
it's a little smoky in here. A
it
little bit.
smells great though. I will say that I'm gonna enjoy this.
You should
I'm
make this
glad.
into a candle.
Oh,
You think so?
Bed Bath and Beyond, you'd sell the
Yeah.
shit out of this.
Kill it.
That could be my call. I think we could do away with Spencer and Blake.
I don't know. I think that
You guys
hit
gonna
the
roll with
target
them?
demographic
All right.
there.
It looks just like this, but got a wick in the middle of it. All right, it's time for the glove box, where we tell you about some of the cool new gear, guns, EDC shit, whiskey, and other stuff that we're into. This segment is brought to you by Blade HQ. Whether you're into cars, motorcycles, hunting, fishing, grilling, or any number of things, you've got the tools that you swear by. Have you ever noticed that the tool that finds its way into every job is a knife? Do you have a knife that you swear by? If not, it's time you got yourself one. And Blade HQ is the place to get it. They've got the knives to fit any hand, any belt, any job, any budget, in any pocket. Just go to bladehq.com/oil and whiskey to shop their selection of knives. First up, what do we have this week? Who wants to go first? Dump your pockets.
Phil, dump
out.
them.
You go first. I got nothing
Let's
cool
see
and
him. Come
exciting
on.
this week.
Show us some bunny ears. Empty those things.
I'm just
You can't say that.
Can't do bunny ears.
bunny ears.
No.
No, it's the pockets and they come out the
Yeah.
bottom of your cut off jean shorts. Those are bunny ears.
Oh, okay.
What were you thinking bunny
There's
ears
a
were?
different way to do bunny ears. Never mind. Sorry.
All right.
It's
What do
my
you got, Phil?
fault.
It makes sense now. I'm going old standby.
PGS.
Benchmade bailout again.
I love the knife. I'm just tired of seeing it.
Yeah. I could deal without ever seeing that again too.
Right.
Well, you're gonna have to deal with it because
That's
it's
a
gonna
nice
be
knife.
rocking around a lot.
You see that? So you modded this, right?
I did.
Hmm.
Got scales from AWT, Advanced Weapons Technologies, I think. They're a billet scale. The knife came with a plastic scale. Knife's actually discontinued now with the plastic scales and that blade. I want the serrated. Yeah, I want to get another one just to keep it kind of
Phil's big into cutting rope, so he needs the serrated blade.
zip ties, cardboard boxes.
Yeah, try cutting a zip tie without a serrated blade.
I
You
do
only
it all
need,
the time.
you only
I
need
don't
one
do-
serration to cut a zip tie.
I
It's
don't
just
do
a
serrated blades. Sorry, I just don't.
That's where it's at. So yeah, I'm about out of cool shit. Like I've run through all the cool things I own. So I got to get out there and start doing a little bit more digging on the interweb and find some other stuff.
That glove box in the Miata is pretty big. Look around in there, see what's in there.
Yeah, it's not that much room. I actually took the glove box liner out for weight savings.
Weight.
Yeah.
It's a weight game.
Yeah.
Forgot. Yeah, when you have 62 horsepower, you need to get all the weight out of there.
Yeah, you pull the driver's side headlight out. You take the,
That's a cold air
passenger seat.
intake. Yep.
Yeah,
You
take
know
all
what
that
most
stuff.
people don't ever talk about on the Miatas?
What's
Something
that?
seldom talk. It's a shitty fucking car. Not
You know,
a lot of people
yeah,
say that.
That's interesting that you don't hear that part come up. Like
Yeah,
there's a lot
everyone-
about it's light, it's
Right.
nimble, it's this, it's that. But yeah, nobody really ever just says, yeah, it fucking sucks.
Yeah, that's
Right.
More people should.
Yeah, you heard it here first.
Yeah.
Phil, though, he keeps trying to sway us over.
Yeah. You know.
I
What
am
else?
not.
You got anything else?
That's it in the pockets. Standard wallet, cell phone. That's about it. I did have you queue up a little interweb here. Come
You
on
hit it.
now.
Oh, I'm getting.
You
I'm
hit it,
getting
Phil?
there. I'm getting there. Go ahead, keep talking.
Bam.
Minimize a little want more thing on the side there. So, touching to the grilling side, I've been rocking this barbecue prep tub for about a
You-
year and a half
You
now.
own one of these?
I do. Yes, my,
Physically in your possession.
my mother got it for me for a birthday present like a year and a half ago. Do a lot of barbecuing, a lot of prepping, and it works awesome. It's a cutting board, and then it's got like silicone accordion type things. So you can pull it up into a tub for doing like pork shoulders
Oh, isn't
or
that
whole
something?
chickens for when
Something.
you're.
I-
Yeah.
I'll be honest with you. When you sent me the link, I looked at
Dude.
it and I was like, this is going to fucking
Hey,
suck.
take a look at that. Look at those guys look like they are having the best time.
Oh,
Yeah,
those three
that-
dudes.
That
Yeah.
happens
A
pretty
phenomenal
regularly.
time. Those are the kind of dudes that use the barbecue prep tub. I mean, those guys, obviously, they're going to go home. You know, they'll talk about it in the morning.
Well, luckily, they
So-
weren't a sponsor, nor will they be after this. But
That's a great.
if you're into barbecuing, it solves a lot of problems, I think.
I'm going to
Okay.
have, hold on.
Go ahead, Josh.
I think it's a great product. When you sent it to me, I was like, what the fuck is this? And I looked at it. It's ingenious.
Yes.
Now, however, I just found the biggest problem.
Yeah,
That's man hands.
yeah. Washing.
Washing.
What's he doing?
I don't know. Maybe
Huh.
something's wrong with his house.
I wonder if his wife
She's in-
fell down, had it like took a bump on the chin or something. Maybe had
Still
a
wash fucking
sprained
dishes.
her wrist, perhaps.
He has to be recently widowed with 17 kids. The only reason that
Probably
you should
right.
be watching something.
God, that's terrible.
I know.
Imagine what a guy to be
Yeah.
able to do all that.
But back to your point, I think it's an
Anywho.
awesome product. I just would never wash it.
Doing a lot of barbecuing, so seasoning, rubbing, prepping bigger pieces of meat, it's kind of hard to do it on like a tray. The seasoning gets everywhere. It's all over the counter. It's all over the floor, and then you don't know what to,
aluminum foil, and it's a huge mess.
you don't know what to put in when you put it back in the fridge. Should leave it open? Should you not? So this, and then the other problem is if you get like a big tub, like where the fuck are you putting that in your pantry, kitchen, cabinets, anywhere? So this thing's pretty cool. It's got a cutting board base, and the sides pull up, and it's got a top on it. Great for seasoning, brining stuff. And then when you're done, it's good for pulling pork. If you're doing a pork shoulder, you can shred it without it going all over the counter.
Jeremy, what do you have in your pocket?
I'm starting to run out of knives. So brought this little guy in. Cool little Benchmade. That's kind of falls under the going out knives category. I've got a whole level in my little knife tray that are going out knives. That's a Benchmade. And it is the Nakamura. Discontinued currently. I've had it for several years. Cool little knife. Got some neat stuff
bringing
going
it
on.
to the table that nobody else can buy it or get something like it.
Well, you can chase it down, but it has all the things that I like. Some wood, a little carbon fiber.
What's that backbone piece?
All the things you like.
Yeah. Got some Chinese symbols on there, Japanese symbols, whatever you call that. Sharp little fucker though, and it's no clip on it, so that's when you can talk. When you talk about, you can, what pocket do you carry it in? Where do you put it? What do you do with it?
Yeah.
That's when you tuck that sucker right in the little coin pocket. That thing that you don't use at all in your jeans, but works well for that. So periodically,
It's a nice knife.
Yeah,
Wood and carbon fiber is something you don't see very often.
you don't, but it works well together. It has a lot of
Does look good.
detail, and when you look at the back going on that nice little detail there.
Little armadillo back.
You see that guy? Other than that, I found something cool that I wanted to share, because this is why it's important to do like the standard man thing. Like when you're at the shopping mall or you're at the farmer's market, it's important to just wander away from the family, pissed off.
Yes,
and
you shouldn't be there.
Right, because you shouldn't be there and do your own thing.
Right.
Because there's a good chance you might find something cool. And I found this at a farmer's market, believe it or not, recently. $5.
GMO.
$5. I asked the gentleman what he wanted for it. He said $5. I said $5. He said yes. I handed him $5, and now it's mine. And that is the Speed and Power
Thank you for
Handbook.
describing a modern sales purchase.
Transaction.
Yeah, it was a nice transaction. Very minimal dialogue. Published in 1949.
I think that dude got you for $5.
Yeah.
You think so?
He saw you coming from a mile away.
He didn't.
Have you read the handbook yet?
I've flipped through it.
No.
This is full of Betty Crocker recipes. That's really cool.
Yeah, you're goddamn right. It's cool. Check out the ad in it, the little insert. Go ahead, flip through. It's at the beginning.
Oh, wow. Edelbrock heads for 49 Fords and Mercuries. Compression ratios 7.5 to 8, 8.5, 9.
Ooh, I got a little.
You do have
H&H
flathead.
flathead.
Flatheads.
Yeah, so that's like the last time that anything relevant flathead related was put in a publication.
Sorry, Mike.
So Mike Herman, if you're listening, 1949, and then we spanned until
Now,
like the early to mid 2000s when
They're
Mike
making a
Herman
comeback. Yeah.
brought it back. Thanks,
Mike's
Mike.
not listening to a podcast. He doesn't have that capability.
They don't do this on the ham radio, do they?
that
I don't know. We'll have to ask him.
that's
So-
a great coffee table book.
It's very cool.
Yeah.
And interestingly enough, all that talk with Kyle Tucker about engineering school and all those things, I think is nonsense. My hunch is that he picked up the Speed and Power Handbook.
And he figured it all out.
Yeah,
from
you
there.
read that cover to cover. And
Question.
Yeah.
How many pages have you read?
I haven't read a complete page. I've
0.
picked and choose the
Look at the
things
pictures.
Yeah, you've looked
that
at
I like.
pictures.
But I'll tell you this. I know that on page 33,
There's a picture.
yeah, there is a picture. It's a chart. Actually, it's a dyno chart. So look at this. This talks about how you build your own power conversion. So right there, we have some dyno charts. And they start with a stock, that's a flathead. And it jumps up to your dual manifold. If you make it high compression, water injection, dual mufflers, regrind the cam, relieve and port the heads, and then completely reworked. And you can see
How much is a completely reworked flathead?
that makes
36.
170 horsepower versus the stock, which is 90 horsepower. So
If you had a worn out small block and you pulled 2 spark plug wires off, how much?
probably
150.
about that. But it's the most
Okay.
vague book. Like I have read
Right.
bits and pieces of it. It's incredibly vague, but it's also cool that it's written in 1949 and it talks about racing frames. That's a whole section. They talk about channeling. They talk about styling, dechroming. They show what you do, the before and after of channeling a car. It's it's like a guide to building a hot rod in 1949.
Pretty cool.
Cool.
Kind of
Awesome.
neat. How about you, Josh?
Well,
Where's your speed and power handbook from 1949?
I feel a little underprepared. I'm rocking the same readout from a couple of days ago. The new Benchmade. Putting some
That's what bad.
putting some miles on it, seeing what I think. A little on the large side, but I actually like it. A little aggressive on the waffling, but all in all, right now, I think I like it. However,
So, to confirm, you like it large and aggressive.
I do. I like it
Okay.
large and aggressive. I feel, again, like I said, I feel a little underprepared. Phil brought a plastic tub that he puts his meat in. You brought an old ass book, and
You brought a pellet gun.
I brought this shoots.
Is that
Oh, dude.
airsoft?
Yeah, it's your airsoft gun.
This is the little whoobies. So what does
Yeah.
it shoot? The little.
So for everybody listening, Josh is very into competitive airsoft and the realism. So he spends a tremendous amount of time retrofitting actual AR parts onto his airsoft guns. So what you're looking at right there is about a $1,700 airsoft gun.
This shoots a 7mm plastic BB
At over
easily-
1,700 feet per second.
1,700.
Yeah, it will penetrate. It will send the human lung out of the body.
Cool part about this one, you can pump it to 12 times.
No, you
Now I know
can't.
you're full of
That's a
shit.
fucking lie.
Yeah, it's modified. It's been
This-
adjusted.
Should we bring this
Yes,
up?
yes, absolutely. This is the
Is this the
perfect time to
time?
bring
Yeah.
this
Is
up.
it a perfect
And I
segue?
want somebody to somehow
Hang on.
comment on this. As we've all grown up with BB guns, pellet guns, pump guns, CO2 guns. How many people out there have pumped their BB gun more than 10 times?
That's still around to tell it.
Yeah, I would
Yes.
say that nobody's around.
No, I
That's-
think there's probably 2 or 3 adults that are horribly disfigured
That have pumped it 11 times?
that have pumped it 11 times. The rest of them
Are
didn't
liars.
make it.
The rest of them are liars.
or they weren't counting.
Yeah.
If you're walking around all 10 fingers, all 10 toes, perfect eyesight, and everything's right up here in the face, and you say that you did it 11 times, full of shit.
That is, when you sit down with me for a job interview, that is
That's
the second question that I'm going to ask you. And that's purely based on character because I want to know, are you going to bullshit me in the future?
Right.
And if you're going to sit there and you're going to tell me that you pumped a BB gun,
How many people have we ran
11
across that are
to 12
oh, man, I used
times.
to pump that BB gun 12 or 13 times.
dude, everybody knows. Everybody knows. How many times do you pump it, Phil?
You go 9 and then 10 if you're feeling saucy.
Yeah, 10 will disintegrate a squirrel. You pump that sucker 10 times.
Oh, it's just fur left.
Yeah. It's a
Dust.
It's like a kitten sneeze.
One of the best descriptions in the history of descriptions.
Anyway,
So
Anyway.
as you were,
This
your
is a-
airsoft gun.
This is my airsoft. This is my new build I did a few months ago. I wanted to do an all peanut butter, all FDE build. So I started with a Geisley lower receiver, Geisley upper receiver, Geisley rail, BCM bulk carrier group, Badger Ordnance safety selector, Badger Ordnance scope mount, and then the Strike Eagle. And then everything Geisley and BCM except the barrel is Noveski. I'm a big Noveski fan on the barrels. They're super accurate. We actually did a little shooting of this gun this past weekend and
Yeah.
put it through its paces. 11.5 inch Surefire muzzle device, Geisley trigger. Just a fun little mid-size. say truck gun because it sometimes stays in the truck, but it's just got some cool things and fun to shoot. And at this point in time, there's lots of other guns that serve multiple purposes, and I'd like to come up with a cool story of why you just have to have one of these, and there's just not one. I just thought it was
It
cool.
looks
I
like-
wanted to build it a certain way.
I want to shit on it, but it's pretty fucking cool.
It looks like a weapon of war.
It's got the colors that say it's dangerous because of the way it looks, even though it's completely unfounded. And
Great looking gun, Josh.
so
You do you do a really nice job of putting those together. Josh has got a phenomenal gun room and gun collection. Should be shared with the world.
that's no.
Well, I'm glad.
Piece by piece.
I'm glad that I get
a
to
little-
experience
You
it.
get to experience it. Yeah, it's a hobby that I have that I enjoy. We all have our things that are our getaways, and
Yeah,
something
like
I enjoy.
Phil's is trimming his bonsai trees and racing his Miata. You like advanced.
I don't like this picture I'm getting painted into.
The bonsai trees.
I want you to.
Phil,
Where the
I would-
fuck did that come from?
well, you've been doing it for years. I mean,
I want you to break your hand on his head again, just like
Like
in
when
the
we were
old-
kids.
We're getting pretty
Yeah.
close.
Well, next up. Oh, sorry. We still have to finish the glove box.
We do.
We've been drinking multiple things. But we started on the bourbon side of things. This is Nevada H&C Distilling Smoke Wagon. This is Phil's pick. Tell us a little bit about it, Phil.
Brought two of them. I had the uncut, unfiltered, and the small batch, and I can never remember which one's which. They got badass bottles, so I bought them a while ago. I got the uncut, unfiltered as a birthday present. Initial taste, I think they were pretty hot.
if you like lava, I guess would be.
That would be
Probably.
the level of heat.
Yeah.
But dropped a little water in it. I think it opened it up quite a bit, mellowed it out. I like the flavor, still a little bit of heat. I think I like the unfiltered, uncut better than the small batch.
I never had any of the small batch.
I didn't get in a
Get
small
on
batch
ya.
either.
Yeah, I didn't get any of the small batch.
So another one that's kind of around the United States. It's distilled in Indiana.
And then what's the Nevada thing?
I don't know. Yeah, here, distilled in Indiana,
They pumped their water from Nevada.
aged and bottled by Nevada Distilling Company.
Logistically, it seems like they're leaving some dollars on the table.
Yeah.
I've never understood that. We're gonna make all that shit here, ship it across the country if you put it in some fucking bottles. But
That's one way to look at it.
we don't know anything about whiskey.
In
if
the
you're
bottle
gonna-
department, I'd say probably one of the cooler
That
ones
was a
out there.
Gorgeous bottle.
Good piece to have on there. Drinking wise, without water, I'd say pretty damn hot. Doing the rough math, that's probably like 113, 114 proof. So it's got a lot of heat to it. Drop or two of water, mellowed it out. Like I said, good flavor. I'm going to go 7.0 on the unfiltered and a 6.5 on the small batch.
I can't rate the small batch because I didn't try it. Neither one
Well,
of
then
us
pick
did.
one.
I didn't try the small batch, but I was going 6.5 on the uncut, unfiltered.
I'm gonna give a number, but first I'm gonna preface it with this is why I give it just a couple of degrees more, right? A couple of points more. We go to Vegas every single year. We never find ourselves. There's restaurants out there that have great bourbon selections, but as a whole, casinos don't. We find ourselves sometimes in casinos late at night. You can never get a decent bourbon.
That's Crown and Coke all day long.
However, you can generally find some smoke wagon in the casinos out in Nevada.
Can you really?
Yeah, you see it.
last year or two.
You see it all over the place. So now that I know that it's spicy, I know that it's hot, but I also know that it's drinkable. So that gives me a little bit more knowing that at least when I'm in Vegas, I'll just order some smoke wagon, regardless of what it is. If I have to put a little water in it, I'm gonna give that one a 6.3. It's a 6.3.
When you're the Aria always has a pretty solid bourbon selection there.
Yeah,
That one back bar.
Yeah.
You know when you're like,
The Alavators.
yeah,
Yeah, but it's hit or miss. There's either
is.
one person there or there's 2,000
Yep.
people there.
or it's either there's just Jim Beam there,
Right.
or there's like $10 Pappy pours.
Yeah.
there.
It's
all
Never
over
know
the
what you're
place.
going to get. Ah, well, next up, it's time for the Roadster Shop Hall of Fame. Then this segment is where we take a few minutes and talk about some of our most favorite vehicle builds, the iconic builds or vehicles that were just a ton of fun for the Roadster Shop to build and create. So there's really no rhyme or reason why we do it.
We just do it.
We just do it. What do we have this week? Jeremy, I'll let you.
Yeah, we got a blast from the past here. This is an interesting car because it's something that was one of the first projects that we started, probably in like 2002, 2003. And it was finished up in what year was that award, Josh? What's that look like? 2011, 2012, you think something like that?
No,
doesn't
way
show it
later
on
than
there.
that.
Way later than that. Yeah, my dates
2016, 2018 range.
Right
are
there in
really
the mid 20 teens, mid
okay.
to late 20 teens.
Glad everybody came prepared for this one.
Yeah. At any
It's a
rate,
Hall of Fame. It was,
Hall of
it was,
yeah.
It's been
Hall
previous
of Fame.
times.
This is a very neat car, neat story. 32 Ford Roadster that we built for a really interesting gentleman. Al Nagel was his name. Recently passed away about 2 years ago. And for any of you out there that grew up as a teenager in like the early 2000s, you may have had a StarTAC Motorola flip phone. Remember that little guy? That miniature little flip phone?
Yeah.
I had one.
Yep.
Al Nagel designed that
Really?
flip
Yep.
phone. Yeah. Worked for Motorola as an engineer, holds all kinds of crazy patents. The most unsuspecting guy that you would ever, meet
There's a young Jeremy right
in your
there.
life. Yeah, look at that.
Speaking of unsuspecting,
Yeah,
look
yeah.
at those
Unsuspecting.
sideburns.
You had to look at those, and there's no gray in them either. So there's
You want some of this milk,
There I am.
sideburns?
But a really cool project. Frustrating at times because it was like a 15-year-long project that Al was super involved with. Every single part you see as you look under that dashboard, the brake master location, the shape of the pedals, every bead in the firewall, the windshield pillars, not the sideburns. Those sideburns were grown, naturally by me. But Al was an engineer, so old school engineer, drew every single thing by hand. And we worked really close together. I knew Al came to the shop, one of the few customers who came to the shop every single day for over a decade, and drew everything to scale. There were,
There's a couple of drawings that I was going to get to.
full scale drawings of every single part and piece, old school engineering drawings, and
they would make everything 3D compound curves out of paper somehow.
Yep.
When he first came in, were you like, what's this dude all about?
Yeah.
How long did it take you to figure out, like, oh shit?
It took a long time because I built the frame rails, I built the chassis for him the first time. And then as you're looking at that right there, built the whole chassis, and then Al would have you build things. He'd draw them, have you build them, and then once he saw it, he would go back and redesign something. So those are 2 saddle tanks that are sitting within the cross members, and oval tubing that we just ripped tubes down the middle and created oval tubing. Well, Al decided after it was all said and done, he wanted to get another like 3/4 of a gallon of fuel in each tank. So that meant, well, just cut the entire center cross member out of the car and let's redo it because I drew it like this. So that's what we would do. And the entire project would go that way. You'd pie cut the cowl and you'd lay it down per his drawings. And then he would come back after he looked at it and he'd decide he wanted it like maybe another 1/4 inch down. So you'd metal finish it, you'd get it all done, and then you just slice it up again. But very patient guy, very cool guy. He could do things with a file and cardboard and super glue like you've never seen in your life. But that's right there is a good example. Just a side view. That was about the time we started doing the exhaust, and he's got the flex joint, the weld-on collector, every hanger, every resonator, every single thing drawn. talented guy, and it was a fun project. I think it was the most fun when it was done. To see it all,
to be
to see it all
be done.
Well, to see it
Yeah.
all come together, and you kind of lose sight of what you're creating when you're doing something for that length of time. But Al wanted to bring the car to Detroit. We brought the car to Detroit with really no intentions other than bringing it to Detroit because Al wanted it Detroit, and it ended up winning it was a grade 8 finalist, which is pretty cool for a high boy
Absolutely.
32 Ford to win. But you can see its progression from sitting in our original Elgin shop as one of the very first cars we've ever done. That's something I did when I was, probably 20 years old.
That has been attempted hundreds of times and been accomplished correctly.
And
handful.
That's long before. That was like, probably a day's worth of work right there. So that's long before all those tacks. They weren't scuffed. I didn't have a giant 6-inch Fupa cup to color them all up.
There's no Instagram prep on that.
So what I did here is I cut it, I raised it, I TIG welded it, metal finished it, and finished it.
Yeah.
It was done like in a day.
Yeah.
And nobody ever saw it because I was
building the car.
Because I was building the car. Correct. I was trying to get the car done, finished, move on to the next portion.
Check out those wide legs and Adidas shell toes in that picture.
That's Chad.
Yeah.
Yeah, the shell
shell
toes
toe.
back there. Those are the new school shell toes, though. There, look at that old. That was the. You always remind me of the Ghostbusters pedal. That old.
Yeah.
Yeah.
With the louver
Yeah, we
outside.
had that. No, the Miller. Yeah, the Miller
Yeah, it's
pedal.
one
That
of
was like an old sinker wave that we
louvers on
used. And yeah, it was neat project.
The car was full of so many insane little details. Like Al would design every single clamp and like a wire holder and stuff that nobody in a million years would ever see. But
Did
it's
he
little
get to
parts
show
and
it to the
pieces
judges
everywhere.
at Detroit?
So he did, but Al's a quiet guy, and kind of a cool story, kind of a sad story. Al never drove the car. I took him for a ride in it one time. We drove just down the street and back, and ended up having a stroke not too long after that and passed away.
But yeah, it's
But the car,
Very
we took
sad.
care of the car. It sat out a little house with a detached garage in Wilmette, and the car just sat there. So his wife is elderly lady. We picked the car up and just took care of the car, kept it clean, tuned it up, got it ready, and brought it out to Barrett Jackson. I don't know where it ended up.
somebody got a
Sold cheap.
hell of a
You
deal.
know, wrong time to be selling a hot rod, but somebody's got a really neat show piece out there.
It was always one of those. It was just tastefully done. I remember.
Timeless.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thanks everybody for listening to Oil and Whiskey with the Roadster Shop, an Ironclad original. If you like the show, be sure to leave us a rating and a review. And a review means like actually say something like, dude, you guys are killing it. Miatas rule.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I get enough Miata shit. Let's leave that out.
Okay. Miatas suck.
Yeah.
You can leave
yeah,
that
you
too.
could say that. You could be like,
Absolutely.
fuck Miatas.
Yeah. Can't believe Phil
terrible.
likes Miatas.
Yeah.
We'll see you again next week.
If I buy one, will you guys shut the fuck up about it already?
Possibly.
There'll be a little ramp up and then it'll kind of level out.
No,
I think.
hey, dude. Yeah. Yes. We'll definitely.
We'll never say
We'll
anything
never.
about
We
it
will.
again.
Telegraph
We
that one.
promise. Right?
Never.
Never. You
About
heard
the
it. Yeah,
Miata?
you heard it. If you
Never.
buy one, we're done. That's the end of it. The nail in the coffin.
All right. We'll
Okay.
see you again next week.